Greetings, this is Emblem Cheese. Thanks for rubbing me. You are watching part 2 of the Fire Emblem Engage tier list featuring the units. In part 1, I rank all of the emblems as well as describe a lot of Engage's mechanics, so if you haven't seen that, please do, otherwise some of my ratings here might not make sense. Just to catch you up on the criteria, I am talking about maddening with no DLC considered. Also, to rank the characters in the game, I have to talk about all of the characters in the game, so consider this your spoiler warning. As soon as this intro ends, you're gonna see spoiler characters, so now is your chance to escape. Welcome back to the second map in this series. I guess it's an FE4 map, it's really big. Today we're going to be talking about all of the units. We're going to be doing a bit of a low turn count strategy because I'm not going to describe all the criteria again. All of the mechanics of Engage that apply to the emblems also apply to the units because they are in the same game. The main thing I want to re-emphasize is that enemies in this game on Maddening, which is the difficulty I'm considering, are insanely buff. For the most part, your units, even with Emblem Rings, cannot 1v1 enemies, and you don't 1v1 enemies, you're 1v5ing, so you gotta be really careful. You can expect most of your units to die in one round, either because they die in one hit or because they get doubled. So if your unit doesn't get doubled and can survive at least one hit, I'd consider them pretty durable in this game. What makes a unit good in Engage? For the most part, it's just good stats. This game features full reclassing. There are items called second seals, and if you have a second seal, you can change into any other class, assuming you actually have the proficiency, and assuming that it's not the dragon class, because only Alear can do that. This is just a personal thing, but I really don't like this. I think it turns every single unit into kind of stat soup. There's still things that make units unique from each other. They all have personal skills, and of course, their starting class often influences how good they are, because for those who start in good classes, it's less work to actually get them into a usable state. But if it were up to me, there wouldn't be any reclassing. There would just be branching promotions. So I am going to consider reclassing as an option, but reclassing is generally easier later in the game because that's when second seals are more plentiful and less contested. Availability is something that I do consider in these lists. Availability simply means how much of the game the character is actually in. So an easy example of that is Alear, the main character. Alear is in every single map in the entire game, so Alear has perfect availability. Whereas somebody like Kagetsu here only joins you about a third of the way through the game, which I'm sure just means he's bad, right? Some traits that do make units unique, aside from just their base stats and growths. So units have proficiencies in certain weapons, and that means that no matter what class they change into, they'll gain bonus weapon rank with that weapon. So for example, Kagetsu is proficient in swords, so even if you change him out of Swordmaster, he gets extra sword rank compared to the base sword rank of the class he's in. Personal skills in this game, I'm gonna say, are mostly for personality. They're super useless and yet really complex. It ends up being like, if it's the third Tuesday of February in a leap year during a solar eclipse, and if you, as in like the player, do a triple backflip and like post it on TikTok and tag intelligent systems, gain +5 crit avoid. I'll mention what the personal skills are, but for the most part, they don't do anything. This game does feature very prominent downloadable content, which you can purchase for $30 US. I will not be considering this because I think it does break the game balance entirely. I'll mention it if it makes a character better in a specific way, but I'm not going to actually factor it into a unit's performance. One exception to this is going to be the well, because the well is free. So everybody is going to have access to the well, but the meat of the DLC is going to cost you $30, which is half the price of the game, and I don't think it's fair to assume that everybody is going to shell out the extra bucks to access that power. There's a lot of lords in this game. You'll know they're lords because they keep showing up in cutscenes even if you never use them. All these lords have unique classes. I'm not going to assume they're locked to their unique class, but we are going to talk about them. Now yesterday we ranked all of the Emblem Rings, And you are guaranteed to get the Emblem Rings during your playthroughs. There are also the Bond Rings, which is the gacha hell. Some characters immensely benefit from Bond Rings. Unfortunately, there is no guaranteed way to get them. I know there's some RNG rigging you can do, but you can only rig so much. It still ends up being really tedious, and it does come down to luck and your patience. I'll mention it when Bond Rings are important, but I'm not sure I can exactly give full credit for them. Now, let me be clear. This list is going to be based on units' performance, so no matter how much I detest a character, which applies to like a third of the cast, it doesn't actually factor into the rating. And at the end of the day, this is Engage, okay? As Gusteau said, anyone can cook, okay? If you give enough resources to whatever warm body you have the most affinity for, they can be pretty good, okay? I might end up calling some units useless or terrible, and almost certainly, for you, if you like that unit enough, that's not true. In my playthrough, for example, we had Anna go full pay to win. We gave her every single stat booster, we gave her a bunch of DLC emblems, we trained her up, and by the end of the game, she had cap stats like slashing and bashing people all around the place. Anna's terrible, by the way, spoilers. In Engage, useless and bad really just means outclassed. I like this chat message so much, I'm going to steal it. Priestess EE says, no unit is useless in this game because the worst Emblem Rings are stronger than most of the best units. So what are the actual tiers? Nothing crazy here. So S tier here are for the best units in the game, the superstars. I would say that these units provide either something incredibly powerful and unique, or they're just the best at what they do. A tier units, these are very solid additions to your team. They might have some minor weaknesses that you need to be cognizant of, but for the most part, they're just very good. B tier units, these are units that I think have some noticeable flaws, but if you account for them, then they're very usable. This is also probably where I'm going to put units that I think would be in A or S, but have like availability issues, or they're just not in the game enough. C tier units, I think these units are seriously flawed. With enough resources, you can probably compensate for these flaws and make them usable or even good, but I personally, don't quite think that it's worth doing that. And then at the bottom we have Firenne's finest. You can probably guess, based on the very subtle naming here, what units might go in here. I think these units have flaws that are so severe that getting them to work should be considered like a challenge condition. Doesn't mean you can't do it, but I personally think it starts venturing into meme territory. Now, although this game is called Fire Emblem Engage, it's really called Fire Emblem Warriors 2. Warrior in this game is absolutely busted. If you're a physical unit, at some point I'm probably gonna say, consider going into Warrior. If I say that now, maybe I don't have to say it for every single unit. Shoutouts to Warrior finally being better than Berserker, because almost always the better stats of Berserker outweighs Bow Axis, because Bow Axis is kind of whatever. But in this game, Warrior actually has better stats, and bows are super useful. So what are the victory and defeat conditions for this map? I think we can do it. Technology is incredible, by the way. I have new graphics for an exciting new mechanic in these tier lists. Player and enemy phase, ooh. So check this out, it's player phase. So we're always going to start a unit ranking in player phase. I'm the player, by the way. That's just going to be me giving my thoughts on a unit. However, now, by using the crossed sword emotes in the chat, if there's enough swords, and this is Fire Emblem, so there's always a lot of swords, you can initiate the enemy phase. Ooh, very spooky. So in the enemy phase, that's when you can make arguments, I guess, to change the tiering of a unit if you really strongly disagree. And I promise that I will actually, like, listen, I'm not just gonna dismiss you because I think I'm right, although in the end I might still end up thinking that I'm right. Arrogant YouTuber literally villainizes the audience, makes them the enemy. This is very much a test. If it ends up taking 60,000 hours, then we might not do it, but I think it'll be fun to at least try this. Let's begin. Turn 1. With the Divine One, Alear. Alear comes in male and female variants. In almost every game that has avatars, the female tends to be way better for a variety of reasons. Apparently female Alear is better in this game, but it's very, very marginal. Female Alear can become a Pegasus Knight in Tier 1, while male Alear cannot. I don't know why you would ever do that, but male Alear literally can't, so I guess he's slightly worse in that regard. Female Alear has minor synergy with Louis and Merrin's personal skills, and male Alear will face debuffs when you have to fight Rosado and Goldmary in the story. None of that matters, but I thought I should mention it. So Alear, they're the main character of the game. Worst avatar ever, I think is fair to say. Almost always the avatar character in Fire Emblem games, starting with Awakening, is incredibly busted, and typically the best unit in the game, or at least among the best units in the game. Almost always they can steamroll the entire game such that the optimal strategy ends up being low-manning the entire game with your avatar and whoever their S support is, and Alear, for the most part, ends up, by the end of the game at least, in the Divine Dragon class, dealing 0 to single-digit damage once, but hey, their speed is good enough that they usually don't get doubled. Anyway, Alear is one of the best units in the entire game. I guess female Alear is a little better. So Alear, in the Divine Dragon class at least, sucks at fighting. Luckily, this is a game where fighting isn't everything, and making other people better at fighting is actually very useful, which Alear does better than almost anyone else. Alear is the only character in the game that can access the dragon type without paying $30. Now that on its own, it doesn't actually mean anything. Just because something is unique doesn't actually make it good. However, it is good! Hooray! Okay, Veil is also available without paying $30, but I think Alear's still better at supporting things. Dragon gets the absolute best bonuses with Corrin, who is a very powerful emblem, and also the Byleth Rally with Dragon is overall, I would say, the best. Another thing that Alear excels at is Alear is the best Bonded Shield user in the entire game. Bonded Shield, as we discussed with Lucina, is super duper powerful. However, one of the caveats of using it is that Bonded Shield doesn't actually protect the user. Instead, the user relies on the massive avoid bonus you can get from dual support. However, to actually benefit from dual support, you have to support your adjacent units. And Alear can support literally everyone, which makes your Bonded Shield Death Ball much easier to use. Alear also is the only one who can utilize Engage Plus, which is a powerful mechanic, and I think, unlike with the other Bond Rings, which can be equipped on everyone, because Alear is the only one who can do Engage Plus, they do get a little bit of extra credit for that. And in terms of availability, Alear has the best in the game. They are not only in every map, they have to be in every map, so you may as well use them. Let's talk about their stats. The fact that we haven't even brought them up until now probably indicates that they're not that important. For a level 1 unit, I mean, I don't know how much you can expect. They're not great. They're good enough to not get doubled, which pretty much holds true for the entire game if you keep them in their base class line. Growth rates are okay. 45 strength, 20 magic is a little unfortunate because you can never really make Alear a magic unit. So if you want to customize the avatar that way, which is something you could do with other avatars, can't really do that with Alear. They tend to trend physical. 65% speed, this is really important. As long as you are decently fast and engaged, there's probably something you can do, and Alear is decently fast. One of the most important things about Alear is that they have probably the best personal in the entire game. So if the Divine Dragon looks at you, then you gain 3 damage and take 1 less damage, assuming you're adjacent to Alear. I think this is literally a carbon copy of Camilla's personal skill from Fates. I mean, it was one of the better personals in that game too. This doesn't scale. It's always the same values throughout the entire game. This is incredibly, incredibly strong at the beginning of the game. I mean, look, you have 6 strength. So you almost gain a 50% damage boost just from being next to Alear. I know your weapon also adds damage. A very important point about the extra damage is that it is true damage. So that means that even if the enemy would take 0 damage naturally from your attack, which is gonna happen a lot by the way, if you're next to Alear, you will always deal at least 3 damage, and this is super important for applying poison. Because in order to poison an enemy, you have to actually damage them. And if you're next to Alear, you will always at least do 3 damage. And it adds 12 damage to quadruple hit, so Lief is finally good. Alear's personal also just synergizes really well with what you want to do with Alear in general, which is just hug all of your other units. As long as Alear is near where the action is happening, Alear is making contributions. I would actually say that Divinely Inspiring is so strong, it's better than some units you can field in this game. When Alear promotes to their tier 2 unique class, the Divine Dragon, they also gain access to fists. So they're sword locked basically. Fists do have a use. If you get Lunar Brace from Erica, or if you just equip Erica, then suddenly you get Fists of Fury and can punch pretty much anyone's lights out. I don't really think that's the main use of Fists. The main thing is that your Engage recharge is based on how many rounds of combat you do, and Fists have an innate Brave effect and are light. So you can almost certainly get 4 rounds of combat, maybe 5 if the enemy attacks you back, which is going to be almost a full Engage recharge. And most of Alear's power comes from just being an Engage bot anyway. So in that sense, Fists are actually really good on them. And in terms of combat and, actually killing things, I'm making them sound like they're Roy or something. If you want to actually fight with Alear, you can just reclass to like Wyvern Rider. So being a dragon on a dragon lets you fight a lot more effectively. I just don't think that that's Alear's best use case scenario. But you can do that, which is something Roy can't do. We should mention one very specific weakness of Alear, which is that Alear themselves is a dragon. They only gain the dragon type bonus if they're in their personal class, but even if they reclass to something else, they are still considered a dragon, which means that you get jump scared by dragon effective weaponry on enemies. You gotta be careful. But there are no fairies in this game, so no matter what... Okay, I was gonna say that you'll deal damage to enemies, but that's not true. You hit zeros a lot. Almost every map in this game is kill boss, but there are some maps with different objectives that require Alear in particular to do something. So for those cases, there's an escape chapter. You might want to make Alear a higher movement class like Griffin Rider. Alear also gets a very special personal weapon near the end of the game, the Wilglanz. I think it's German, so I didn't call it the Willy Glanz, okay? I'm trying. It's a really good weapon, 1-2 range sword, but it is the end of the game. You could only use it for the final chapter or for DLC if you haven't done it yet. So unfortunately not much of a benefit, but it is something that happens. It's no binding blade, okay? Oh, they also have a personal weapon the entire game called the Liberation. I don't think it's that good, but, I mean, it exists. Alear also has the Endless Pockets. They are the only way to access the Convoy, unless you pay $30 for the DLC Enchanter class. And the Convoy is really important for stabs, because stabs are super good in this game, but also super specific. So you might need to reach into Alear's pockets and get the stabs you want at some point, if you don't start with them on the map. I guess we'll mention the Divine Dragon class's unique skill. It doesn't really matter, but your engage meter is 1 step shorter. That's not much, but a lot of class skills actually do nothing, so that's something. Vander! People who wish that 3 houses had a Jagan, don't worry, your prayers have been answered. This guy's definitely a Jagan. I think people are really cruel to Vander. I keep seeing that he's like the worst unit ever. I don't think that's true. I think people are just too used to Jagans that never fall off and just break the entire game over their knee. Jagan... I just called him Jagan. Vander is Jagan. He's really useful at the beginning, and then he's not. I'd use him. So Vander joins you like right at the beginning of the game. 6 movement, which is 2 more than all of your other units. Max HP 40. Now, of course, these stats are horrendous for his level, particularly his internal level. His internal level is super high, so he will never gain experience. I think at the end of the game, our Vander was literally still level 1. He never leveled up. His growth rates are, well, they're actually a lot better than I thought. Wow. I mean, these aren't amazing, but I mean, they're actually kind of fine. He will never level up because of his terrible XP gain, but it's not like he'll never gain stats. Early game, your units are so bad and enemies are so strong that you really need this dude to shield your weaker guys. I mean, he's 40 HP that you can move around the battlefield 6 tiles at a time. Incredibly useful on maddening. Probably on lower difficulties where you don't have to be as cowardly. I'd imagine that's why most people are not impressed with this guy. On maddening, you really do need a wall, and Vander is your earliest option. His personal skill would be way better on someone that actually wanted to fight. So it gives both Alear and Vander extra crit when they're adjacent to each other. And the last thing you want to do with Vander is crit and unironically steal XP. I don't really think there's much else to discuss with Vander. I'm sure there's some way to stuff him with a bunch of resources and make him viable at endgame, but I don't really think you'd need to. I think he Jagans as I believe Jagans should. Useful at the beginning, and then, in my mind at least, he nobly sacrificed himself to help us escape from the cathedral, okay? Because I never saw him again. That also makes more story sense, right? That he dies as a distraction. Very useful until your units promote, then just drop him. I don't think you have to be useful for the entire game to be considered useful overall. He just retired, okay? I did say earlier that this list is full spoilers, but I'm just going to reiterate that here. I think it's hilarious that in one of the ending PNGs for Fell Xenologue, there's like an image of Vander fighting the final boss. Like, bro thinks he's on the team. I didn't mention that I'm not considering Fell Xenologue performance, but I'm not considering Fell Xenologue performance. Vander might actually be the worst unit in Fell Xenologue. He is so bad. Clanne. Do we stand Clanne? No, I wouldn't say that, but I also think that people are a little bit too mean to this guy. So Clanne gets memed on a lot because his personal magic growth is 10%, which, to be clear, alright, is terrible. And he would be a lot better if some of his strangely high strength was in magic. But the mage class itself does have very high magic growth, and more importantly than that, I think, Clanne's base magic is really high. I don't think he's good, but I don't think he's as bad as people say. So these are Clanne's base stats. Base magic 8, base speed 9, those are both really good. He dies in one hit to absolutely everything, but luckily he is a mage, so it is easier to keep him alive than with other units. Personal skill Verdant Faith, if he is adjacent to Alear, then they both gain extra hit, I believe 10 hit. That's nice. I mean, neither of them really have hit issues, but I mean, more hit is always nice. These are his growth rates in the mage class, so although his personal base magic growth is only 10%, in mage it is 35. 50% speed. 35% strength. Filthy mixed attacker. And Clanne is clearly supposed to go into mage knight. If you can get him there, like, yeah, he's okay, but the early master seals are very contested, and I don't think Clanne gives you enough of a return on your investment to be first in line, or second in line, or third in line, or fourth in line for the master seal. But hey, he can kill early game armor knights, which is more than I can say for some of your other units. We'll see who else we end up putting in C tier. We might end up moving Clanne up to B, but for now at least, C for Clanne. Framme! One of the most obnoxious characters in the entire game.
Divine One! You look so shiny when you sweat! Hey! Look over here! Hey! The Divine One looked right at me! Thank you, Universe, for creating someone so awesome and so very shiny.
The Divine Dragon looked at me! I can't stand it, but again, that does not actually factor into the ratings. Staves and Chain Guard out of 10? Super duper useful. You don't get another staff user for a while, and staves have a bunch of utility, in addition to just being able to heal. Healing is useful, but usually in this game you die in one hit unless you're a dedicated tank unit. Healing isn't as useful as it could be, at least early on. As a staff user, her stats don't really matter. I guess she can use fists, but they will always do 0 damage, so don't even bother. Fist damage calculates based on the average of your strength and your magic. It's almost always just gonna lower the amount of damage you could do, and enemies have such high defense that you just can do 0 damage, almost guaranteed. Crimson Cheer is her personal skill. If you are adjacent to Alear, then both of you gain Avoid. Avoid is always useful, very nice. Here's her growth rates. 50% magic, that's alright. 55% speed along with 7 base speed. Probably enough to barely escape being doubled, which is what really matters. So she can heal units that miraculously survived a hit, and she can chain guard to potentially negate that hit in the first place. Chain guard is just really powerful, especially because enemies do not see it. They do not know that you are chain guarding, so they will still try to attack units they think they can kill, only to be foiled by a chain guard. Very useful. I think there are better staff users in the game, but hey, you don't start the game with them, and you pretty much do start the game with Framme. Pretty good unit. And she is your only bonded shielder for not bonded shield. And apparently, she's a very good bonded shield user, not chain guard. I didn't actually misspeak this time. Because apparently she just has really good supports, and she is a key adept in her base class, and key adepts have guaranteed chain guard. I meant bonded shield! Ugh. Also, good outfit, totally fitting the medieval aspect of Fire Emblem. What, you don't think this is a Fire Emblem character? She does look more like she could be in a Xenoblade game. It's very modern. It very much feels to me like her true canon promotion is Enchanter, but unfortunately, the canon is going to cost you $30. I'm so smart, I didn't even remember that Cannoneer, or Mage Cannoneer, was a DLC class. Wow, I went to college. Thanks for pointing that out. Alfred. There seems to be an entire cottage industry of YouTube videos insisting that Alfred is not that bad. I don't live in a cottage, okay? He's the Prince of Firenne. It's another way of saying that he's one of Firenne's finest. Alfred! Almost always in Fire Emblem, your early units tend to be the best that you get. At the very least, they're on par with later units if you train them, right? That's like your reward for sticking with your early game crew and keeping them alive. This especially applies to Cavaliers, who even if they have bad stats, have a bunch of stuff they can do to be really useful even if it's not in direct combat. Alfred bucks the trend by just being garbage. I guess his horse is bucking. Joins you at level 5. Strength 9, I mean that's not that bad. Speed 6. It's over! It's over! Speed 6! It's not actually over, it does get worse. Build 6. Holy moly. He loses 1 speed to the Iron Lance, so it's actually speed 5. It's over, man. Speed growth 45. He starts in a speed hole, and he never escapes it. I'm sorry. On Maddening, this guy is useless. He is not helped at all by the fact that Cavalry actually has a cost in this game. Not the skill cost, that would be pretty good. Usually, Cavalry units are just better than infantry units because they have extra move, and I guess they're weak to Horse Slayers, oh no. But in this game, infantry units actually do have an advantage, right? Because they can chain attack, which is very, very useful. Early game, at least, before you do bonded shield shenanigans, the benefit of Cavalry is that this number here, movement, says 5 instead of 4. Now, I don't want to undersell 1 extra movement. That is useful if you can actually do things with that extra 1 movement. In a normal Fire Emblem game, there's tons of things you can do. You can go accomplish side objectives, you can rescue drop people, Canto, as in the ability to remove after rescue dropping or trading, lets you do a bunch of interesting utility things that make you a good unit even if you can't stab people good. In this game, 5 movement means that you die 1 tile ahead of everyone else. Horrible. Personal skill Self-Improver. If you use the wait command, you will gain +2 strength for 1 turn. I'm not gonna say this never procs, but you're definitely not going to be waiting to proc this. Ideally, you want to be just attacking, right? Because he is a noble, he actually has a unique promotion, the Avenir? Definitely not an avenue that I want to go down. Class skill is Golden Lotus. It's Pavis, Pavice, Aegis. It's one of those. Dex trigger to reduce incoming physical damage by 50%. Wow. I mean, you're getting doubled by absolutely everything. If you're lucky, maybe Golden Lotus will keep you alive. It mostly just ends up being bad Paladin. In most Fire Emblem games, being a bad Paladin would still be pretty good, but why not just go Paladin? Why not just use someone else? Oh no. I'm trying to see if there's an enemy phase in the chat. I waited with Alfred, so he gets +2 damage on this enemy phase. No supporters. The people of Firenne know that their leader is not worth saving. Slight consolation for Alfred is that he is in almost every cutscene. I'd never used him past his mandatory deploys, and yet he was there the entire game. And because this is the unit that we're being kind of mean to, I do want to reiterate, you can use Alfred. Like, you can give him Sigurd and probably do something fancy at some point and then, like, make a video about it and say that he's not that bad. I just personally don't think it's worth it. If he was a character that I liked, like, personality-wise, I would invest into him, but I don't like him at all. He has a support early on with the next unit we're going to talk about, Boucheron, where he, I guess, fondles his muscles, clearly against Boucheron's will, and he is Boucheron's boss, right? He's the prince. So, like, this is literally power harassment. I know this is a fantasy game, right? It's not the world we live in. I'll just say it didn't exactly make me want to use Alfred, okay? HR's finest. That is something that happens in Japan, by the way. Like, my boss, like, poked my tummy once and said a little fat. Like, come on, man. Boucheron. This guy has legions of online fans. I think because he has kind of a goofy name, and also because people like to like bad units. What country is this guy from? Boucheron. Boucheron, well, he's an axe fighter. 10 strength? I mean, that doesn't seem that bad. 7 speed? I mean, that doesn't seem that bad. What are his growth rates? 40% strength. Axe fighter? 40% strength? Okay. Noodle Arm Boucheron. I think what they were trying to do is that in the story, he has a lot of muscles, but he doesn't, like, work for them. I think that's why they say that he has very good build, but very bad strength. A very creative direction. I guess he equips anchor arms. They're just for show. What you will quickly find happens on Maddening is that he maybe does 3 damage, assuming he doesn't miss, and then he gets doubled and dies. What a great unit. Best thing I can say about him is that he's naturally in the class path for Warrior, and Warrior's really good, so if you invest in Boucheron and make him a Warrior, he can probably do something, probably worse than somebody else that could do the exact same thing. Let's talk about his personal. Move to tears. Apparently, in Japanese, it is the tear gland claps. Read this very carefully. When an ally joins a chain attack in this unit's combat, unit deals +2 damage. How I thought this worked was that if Boucheron chain attacks with someone, the person attacking gets +2 damage. That is not how this works. It's if somebody chain attacks with Boucheron, then Boucheron gets +2 damage. My man, Boucheron, you're the backup unit! You're the one who chain attacks! This is literally impossible to activate until you get Anna, who is bad, or another backup unit. What were they thinking? By the time you can ever get a bonus from this, Boucheron is already so far behind that he's not worth using. Put him over Alfred. Boucheron can chain attack at least. Okay. Etie. She also lives in a cottage where they're talking about how she's not really that bad. She is. It's terrible. She's an archer. Normally that's really, really bad, but it's kind of okay in Engage. There are flyers to shoot. 10 strength. Hey, that's the same as Boucheron. 6 speed, bad. What are her growth rates? 55 strength is pretty good. 45 speed, not enough to get out of this hole. 4 build is atrocious. She has a lot of strength and nothing else. I guess you could give her Lyn later. This is also just a massive flavor fail, because her entire personality is about how much she works out and how buff she is, and she has some of the worst build in the entire game. Why did they do this? She's also in the running for one of the worst personals in the entire game. If you use a healing item on Etie, it has to be a healing item, you can't just get healed, you will then gain a 2 strength buff for 1 turn. This is, I'm going to say on Maddening, literally impossible to use because you die in 1 hit, so you can't actually heal. Horrible. She has no personal. Oh no, it looks like some enemies have appeared. So people are saying that she at least has a really good strength. Worst case scenario, you can make her a warrior, and she does have a bow proficiency, so then she gets to use slightly better bows as a warrior. Sure, we'll put her at the bottom of C. I don't think she's worth it at all, but there are flyers you can shoot, and you can make her a warrior and give her Lyn. I don't think she's as hopeless as these doofuses. One thing that really hurts these early game units is that for the most part, they just end up the same or worse compared to units you get later that you don't have to funnel XP into. And on Maddening in particular, XP is very limited and difficult to obtain. So even though Alcryst I don't think is all that much better, he's definitely going to be rated better just because it takes less work to make him usable. Spoilers, I guess. We can mention her support with Goldmary, not from a gameplay perspective, but the infamous potato fighting support. So there are some changes in Japanese. A major change, it's not a potato, it's just an unnamed root vegetable. Censorship. No, the big change is that in Japanese, I'll just say they're not comparing muscles, okay? It's my turn again, which means it's time to talk about a blonde-haired magic user whose name starts with C. Celine! What country is she from? She betrayed them, okay? She's not among the finest. But I don't think she's very good. Those of you with keen eye, bad ability by the way, will notice that I actually said she's worse than Clanne. She's not from Firenne because she's from Hoenn. She's a filthy mixed attacker. So Citrinne, let's look at Citrinne's stats. So in her joining chapter, she starts synced with Zelkov, and you can't actually take it off of her that chapter. So usually you can say that, oh, you can give people Emblem Rings and that makes them better. Or you can take them away because it's not fair to give them credit. She does get credit for starting with Zelkov because she's the only one who can, in her chapter at least, so that helps a bit. I think I said Citrinne like 4 times. Her name's Celine. So 7 strength, 9 magic, 10 speed. Doesn't seem that bad. What's her speed growth? 50%? 40% strength. 35% magic. Mixed attacking just doesn't work. Enemy stats are so high that unless you are hitting their lower defensive stat, you're not doing anything. So she may as well not have any strength. Except, I guess, when Ignis procs in her personal class, if you choose to go that route. It seems like 4 or 5 Emblem Rings are specifically tailored to Citrinne. Her name's not Citrinne, to Celine, because her personal class is one of the only mystics that actually gets a sword. And the Levin sword in this game is really good. What's her personal skill? Gentle Flower. Buffs healing items used by nearby allies, as in they recover more HP. That's okay early game, but usually you're not going to be using vulneraries later on. You're just going to be getting healed by stabs, or just dying in 1 hit, which is the maddening experience. Vidam is her personal promotion. It is the only mystical unit with swords. B in swords is good enough for the Levin sword, which is the only one you would use anyway. A in tomes is good enough for Bolganon, which is nice. B in staves gives you, I think, everything useful except ensnare. You don't need that many ensnares. There's one unit we're going to talk about later who can ensnare, and that's all you need. We do have some enemies. Pretty much everyone is saying she's better than Clanne. She's actually faster than I thought. Staff utility is alright, and of course she doesn't have to go into her personal class, she could just go into Mage Knight. But then some people think she's not actually better than Clanne, because her speed is not enough to double in Vidam. We can put her above Clanne. Man, we're really fighting here over just like crumbs. They're both like, not that great. I mean, if you do want to live the mixed attacking Hoenn Dream, she's your gal, okay? I hate her dress. Oh yeah, I haven't said that yet. I hate her dress. How much is her dress growth? It's too high. I guess last thing I'll say about Celine is that I would maybe put her in low B if she had better magic. So just if she wasn't a mixed attacker and had better magic and worse strength, I'd probably give her low B. My turn. I'll use Louis. Maybe it's Louis? So far in your play experience, with the exception of Vander, everyone else on your team just crumples in one hit. And then you get this guy, who takes 0 damage from most physical units. Seems like a good unit, is he? Well, he's the king of falling off. That's pretty much the first thing anyone says about Louis. He's good in the early game, and then he falls off. I think it's probably a bit more apt to say that he falls behind. Check out these base stats. 30 HP, really nice. 13 strength, really nice. Literally 0 magic. Well, he wasn't using magic anyway. You're getting doubled by absolutely everything in the game. 16 defense. Wow. Now, unfortunately, Louis is a unit that suffers from success on Maddening, because on Maddening, if enemies do 0 damage to you, they will ignore you. So that means that he's not that good at protecting your weaker units because enemies just ignore him. And if the enemy can damage you, they're just going to kill you because you have no speed and you get doubled by everything. Unfortunate. I will say that up until very specifically the moment where everybody promotes, so starting right after the moment you lose all your emblems, Louis is probably going to be an auto-deploy. He is super useful because all of your other units also have 4 movement. So if you have Louis at the front, possibly because he has Sigurd and actually has 5 movement, or 10 if you engage, having your lance armor at the front, drawing enemies in for your other units to finish off on player phase, that's actually really useful. When everybody promotes, they all get 5 move, and Louis just has 4 in general. So he falls behind, and by that point, you start getting access to other strategies like Bonded Shield that end up just being better than cowering behind your Armor Knight. Now, if you do want to keep using Louis, you should 100% go Great Knight. Great Knight is way, way better than General. Unfortunately, his speed is hopeless. He could eat 3 Lins and it wouldn't be enough. He gets doubled by everything. If your speed is bad, you cannot be a good unit. You cannot be a good defensive unit because you will get doubled by everything. You cannot be a good offensive unit because you will never double anything. Asterisk. His personal skill, Admiration? I believe he takes 2 less damage if he has 2 female units within 2 spaces of him. Lewis's problem is not that he takes too much damage, so taking 2 less isn't gonna save him. It's similar to Alfred. This is another unit that I just don't really want to use because I don't really like them. I think in English they tone him down a lot, where he just likes watching people. But in Japanese, he just leers at girls, like, very creepily. Lowers their defense. Might even be lowering their speed. Maybe it's a scary face. Not a fan. And Croagunk isn't here to put an end to his antics. And he's, like, fully armored, definitely a steel type, so I don't even think Croagunk could stop him. 500 yen donation, Pikahiri. It's canon that I can pay money to boost Anna's tier, right? Appreciate the donation, and it is in line with what Anna would want, but, I mean, no. You saw the map objectives. We already know where Anna's going. Chloe. One of the best things you can be in early game Engage is a good target for XP. As in, your good late game. Chloe's good late game. Also, she flies. Flying good. So although I did just say flying good, it's not as busted as it is in other games, since for the most part, going off on your own just means you die on your own, but it is something. And later in the game, once you get more powerful emblems, you actually can go on solo missions and do things, aside from just become a corpse. 8 strength, could be better. 13 dex, pretty good, no hit issues. 13 speed, that's what we want to see, nice and fast. Build 5, not what we want to see, really small. Look at these growth rates, 35 strength, that's not good. 40 magic, her magic's actually higher than her strength, that's kind of weird. I would definitely go Sword Griffin for the Levin sword, because I think she uses swords a lot better than she uses lances, especially because her build kind of sucks. Dex 5 would be really bad. Good thing it's Dex 50, which is perfectly fine, and Speed 65. Yeah, that's what we want to see. Fairy Tale Folk is her personal. If you have a male and female unit adjacent to each other within 2 spaces of Chloe, she gets +2 damage. Sometimes this pops up in a battle and you're kinda happy that it did, but I don't think you would ever plan this. Anything else to say about Chloe? I don't think that she gets the Fairy Tale S tier ending. She does have some strength issues, but you can't really go wrong with Fast Flyer. Something I probably should have mentioned earlier, but I guess better late than never. All of the units up to Jade get kind of a hidden bonus, because they all join before you lose your first wave of emblems, which means that they can inherit Kanto, which is really nice. You absolutely 1000% need to do that with Chloe. It makes her so much better. It makes everyone better, but Chloe really likes it. Zappy! I hope I said that right, I tried. Hiya papaya. Yunaka, one of my favorite units. We literally married her. I was not a fan at first. Why does she have stars on her face? But I think she has some very nice supports, and eventually it does make a lot of sense why she acts the way she does, despite the fact that she's supposed to be a thief who's, you know, laying low. I really like this unit. My feelings don't matter. Probably on non-maddening, I would actually put her at S, just because of the change to the AI. So on hard and below, you can just park her in a forest and everybody will get assassinated by her, because they'll just attack her and die. That's not gonna happen on maddening. They're just gonna ignore her, which is really unfortunate. So Thief is actually a special class. It does not promote, but it has a higher level cap. Thief is pretty good early on, and then it's pretty bad by the end of the game, so you should probably reclass her out of it if you intend to use her long term. The best thing about Thief early game is this: movement 5. So even though all of your other units, except for Alfred, who's on the bench, have 4 movement, she has 5. And it's infantry 5, which means that she doesn't suffer the extra terrain penalty that mounted units do, which is extra good because Thief is a covert class. So that means you can park her on an avoid tile, and suddenly she's invincible. That's both good because it means enemies will ignore her, but it's also bad because it means enemies will ignore her. It's very weird that Thief is even in this game, because chests and doors can't be unlocked. Like, anybody can open them, so the only real Thief utility is that she can see a little bit further in fog, which almost never matters, and I guess the extra movement. Strength 8, that's pretty bad, although as we'll talk about soon, it's not as bad as you might think. Dexterity 14, wow. Nimble, you're not gonna miss anything. Speed 12, pretty good. The big difference between her and Zelkov that we're going to talk about later, I do think Zelkov's better overall, but she has a zillion resistance. 7 resistance is actually quite good, and covert units on tiles are invincible except for enemy mystics. Enemy mystics can still hit you, and Yunaka can actually survive a hit from a mystic unit because she has resistance. Hey, that's nice. Build 5 is horrendous, but knives are really light, so that doesn't matter. Growth rates, 45% strength, actually better than I thought. 60 speed, oh yeah, nice. So a build you might not be aware of, probably because I don't think it's that good, is Mage Yunaka. Like, her base magic growth is not that bad. So I guess you can get to level 10 and then reclass to base Mage. And then once you get to level 10 again, you can become a Sage, wow. Or you could go to 21 in Thief, and then you can reclass directly to Sage. I don't know why you would ever do any of this, except to use Thunder Tome, in which case you can literally live the zappy dream. Best part about the Thief class by far is this. So, the Elyos Redemption. Knives in this game are super duper good. Most knives are 1-2 range, at least the good ones are, and the big thing is that every forge on a knife increases the might by 2, which is actually 4 because Yunaka always doubles. She is carried by forged knives, which is why her bad strength doesn't matter that much, because she can easily access super good weapons. Of course, one of the best things about knives is that they poison. So how poison works in this game is that the first hit adds 1 true damage to all subsequent attacks, the second hit adds 2 true damage, and the third hit adds 5 true damage. So that third hit is really important. And on Maddening, where bosses are super buff, are immune to break, and also have all of their weaknesses negated from being flying or cavalry or armored, adding pure damage is super important. You definitely want at least one person that can poison, and Yunaka is the first one that can. She has a very good personal, so if she's on an avoid tile, which she wants to be, she gains, I believe, plus 15 crit, which is very nice. Assuming the enemy actually has a hit chance on you and will attack you. We haven't talked about that many emblem combos, but I do think that Yunaka makes a very good user of Corrin. If you're not using Corrin on Alear, then I would probably put Corrin on a covert unit like Yunaka, because covert units, being able to create their own avoid tiles, allows them to go basically anywhere and create choke points since enemies can't hurt them. And if you're on hard or below, then that combo is completely broken, because you can just use that to solo entire enemy armies. They'll just enter the fog, and then they'll never emerge. She also has really good crit quotes, since that's when she shows her true colors. Look what you made me do. Corrin's Draconic Hex also naturally synergizes with Thief's late game role as a debuffer that just applies poison, because then you also apply Draconic Hex, which is almost mandatory in Maddening in order to kill bosses. I don't have much time, but I would like to throw my hat in the ring for Jean in S tier. Well, say goodbye to your hat. There's no way. Jean, the trainee of this game. So trainees are simultaneously the most beloved and the worst units in pretty much any game they're in. They're there to fulfill the zero to hero fantasy where they start off completely awful, and by the end of the game, they're either on par or like slightly better than units you didn't have to grind for 3 hours. Jean is probably the best trainee in Fire Emblem history, unless you count like Cyril as a trainee. How good is the best trainee in Fire Emblem history? I don't know, like a B? The best part about Jean is that they made him a staff user. Can't be that bad. Jean is actually the first optional character you can get in the game. You can go the entire game without encountering a wild Jean, but if you go to his village in Firenne for a paralog, which I think you should, I think paralogs are fun, you can pick up Jean pretty early. He starts off at level 1, but he is a healer, so his stats don't matter that much. Pretty much everything we said about Framme also applies to Jean. They're the exact same class, so he can heal, he can chain guard. What makes Jean special is this: expertise. It's his personal skill, and it means that the class growths of whatever class he is in get doubled. Theoretically, this means he can excel at everything. I think because of the way reclassing works, he ends up being slightly above average for a lot more work. Also, this is his personal skill, so he doesn't get another personal skill, but most personal skills in this game do nothing, so this at least does something. Now, these growths do look really good, but this is with his personal already factored in. So let's say that you want to make Jean a warrior, because warrior's a really good class. If you had a second seal immediately and could reclass him into axe fighter, he might be a little bit better. Unfortunately, the way it works is that you pretty much have to get him up to level 10, promote him into a promoted class, and then you can second seal into whatever class you actually want to be. Unfortunately, that means that you'll have gotten 10 levels in Martial Monk, which sort of just then prods you into being a magic class, because you've already gotten 10 levels with 70% magic, but only 40% strength. Could make him a mage knight, I guess. Keeping him as a healer is definitely the best way to level him up, because that means he has his own EXP pool of just healing to pull from. You can babysit him with Micaiah. I think he's pretty much interchangeable with Framme. Framme is available earlier and helps you out for more. Jean eventually gives you a much better payoff. He very strangely has a British accent, despite Firenne being, I believe, France. His name is Jean, right? That's not a British name. Anna. For some reason, Anna in this game is a child. Normally she's an adult, but they went for the joke, small girl, big weapon, made her a little girl, gave her an axe. Now, I used Anna, had a lot of fun. She's terrible. Like Jean, she joins you in an early paralogue if you choose to do it, which I think you should, so I'm not holding paralogues against them. 10 strength, this is the same that Boucheron had, except now it's like 6 chapters later. These bases are just atrocious. You cannot fight with her, so you pretty much need to babysit her with Micaiah. Now you might notice, she has a 50% magic growth despite the fact that she's an axe fighter, along with a really good 60% speed growth. She has, I think, the best magical growths in the entire game. Why is she an axe fighter? So in order to actually make Anna good, what you have to do is you gotta get her to level 10 in Axe Fighter, promote her, and then you can second seal her to Sage or Mage Knight. And then hey, eventually you will get a pretty good magic unit. I say eventually because her base magic is 2. Ugh. She does have a very unique and useful personal, Make a Killing, which is a hilarious skill name, like one of the best in the game. How it works is that when she kills a unit, she has a chance equal to her luck to gain 500 gold. Now in order to get Anna to the state where she can actually fight things, she has to use a master seal and a second seal. So that's 4,000 gold already. So you're gonna need 4 procs of this to even pay for her use. Luck percentage chance, right? Luck 3. Now, I'll reiterate, she's a very fun unit, and her eventual ceiling, if you pump a zillion resources into her, is that she has very good magic and speed. The path to get there, the terrain is too rough for me, okay? I don't have flying. However, I will say this, she's not the worst unit in the game. Also, something we should mention, people watching this tier list and discussing the game probably have a lot more meta knowledge than somebody actually just trying to play the game. If you don't know that she has these secret magic growths, you'll just try to use her as an axe fighter, where she's actually maybe the worst unit in the game. If she had like 15 starting luck, then maybe I would consider Make a Killing to be worth it. What they might have intended by giving her crazy magic is for her to go warrior, as you should with pretty much everyone, right? And then in that case, she absolutely slays with the Radiant Bow. Because the Radiant Bow has insane might, to the point where you barely even need a magic stat. But Anna does have a magic stat, so Wyvern's quivering. Alcryst. Or as we called him, all crits. This guy's got dex. Roy's here? Roy can hit him with the Binding Blade.
Emblem Engage.
He might actually die to this. We don't actually want that, right? Bro, we can actually kill him with the Binding Blade for the good ending. Oh, this is good. Binding Blade! Roy wants to be a hero. Roy could crit him. Friends? All crits might ruin it. Roy wanted to be the hero. Roy! My plan! Connecting! I think a lot of people argue that Alcryst is so much better than Etie, since Etie is just a lame early game archer, and Alcryst is an archer that joins you without any of the needed early game investment. I do think he's better than Etie. How much better? Not much. So Alcryst joins you in Brodia as a level 10 archer, and he's a noble, so he gets his own unique promotion to, I think it's literally the French word for sniper, I can't pronounce it. He has 11 strength, that's not good for this point of the game. 17 dex is really good, he has 0 hit issues. 12 speed is not good enough to double. But unlike Etie, you can promote him instantly, and then you can make him a warrior, I guess. Bow-locked classes, like Sniper and Alchryst's personal class, are made a lot worse by the fact that Warrior is so good, and Warrior can use the bows that matter. They can use Longbow, and they can use Radiant Bow, and Killer Bow. So Alchryst's personal proficiency in bows, letting him use Silver Bow as a warrior, I mean, I guess that's something, but his low starting SP also really sucks, because by the time he joins, there isn't that much time before Sigurd gallops away. You pretty much need the well to actually get him Kanto. He does have one of the better personals in the game. If a unit near him gets attacked, then he gains a strength buff. And he is an archer, so he doesn't want to be the one getting attacked. He wants to be the one near others getting attacked, so this usually ends up being like a +3 strength buff for him. It's nice. I think the main reason why people think that Alcryst is like so much better than Etie is because his personal class has access to Luna. Luna is a dex % chance to ignore half of the opponent's defense. I would rather have a 100% chance to just deal damage with an actual strength stat. I think Alcryst is overall just a 4 fun unit. It can be a lot of fun to, roll the slot machine, get mad crits, get a mad Luna procs. If you don't get the crits or Luna procs, sometimes you end up doing literally 0 damage. I think that ultimately, Alcryst and Etie are pretty much interchangeable, but I can't actually put them in the same spot. Etie probably does better overall later, but you have to actually invest XP into her, and then she requires something from Lyn, either Lyn herself or Speed Taker. And at the end, you get like a mediocre warrior. Alcryst can do that pretty much right away, except he then relies on RNG. I honestly wouldn't use either of these guys. But hey, they can shoot flyers without reclassing. Now, we won't hold it against him, but he does have one of the most obnoxious personalities in the entire game. It is the worst anime trope. Ironically, if he didn't keep apologizing, he wouldn't need to apologize. Lapis. One of the premier waifus of this game, she has legions of simps saying that, I can fix her! Maybe they can! Lapis actually has really good stats, but the way the game treats her is very unfortunate. So Lapis is almost guaranteed to make a horrible first impression. First impression, good move, by the way. What do you do on your second turn, right? For whatever reason, the Smash Weapon tutorial is given to Lapis. Smash weapons in general are not very good, and I think a fast Myrmidon is the worst possible way you could demonstrate Smash weapons. So pretty much everybody's first impression of Lapis is going to be her trying to smash this dude off in a void tile and like getting stabbed as she does it. I think it is actually coded so that you will never miss him, but you still get stabbed. So the special thing about Lapis is that she actually has really, really good stats, but she's a sword fighter, which has really, really horrible stats. If you put pretty much anyone in sword fighter, Lapis is gonna have better stats than them. 11 strength, I wish that was a little bit higher. 12 dex, pretty good. 14 speed, very nice. 5 build, atrocious. 35 strength, atrocious. 50 dex, pretty good. 75% speed, very good, wow. So, she's really fast, which means that she attacks twice. And then what? I think the main thing that holds Lapis back is both a combination of her joining class and her timing. Because she joins just when everyone wants to promote, she really needs a Master Seal and a Second Seal. And after her performance in the Smash tutorial, there is no way that you're gonna give either to her. It also does not help that she is immediately overshadowed by 2 other units that appear very similar but better, even if they're not actually better. Well, I mean, one of them obviously is. Her personal skill is both trash and anti-fun. So let me ask you, what's the point of Swordmasters? It's not to be good, it's to get mad crits, right? What's her personal skill? If there's an ally within one space, grants hit avoid +10 at the cost of crit -10. What? So swords have no hit issues, you don't need the hit. I guess 10 avoid is good. Why is this a conditional skill that still comes with a penalty? Why? This is probably more useful if she's not in a sword class. Lapis is a unit that could be good if she was presented differently. Most people just give up on Lapis because she feels so terrible to use, and also her joining class is really bad. At least she's cute, right? We should also mention that although Lapis wants to be in other classes, her absolute trash build really cuts into her speed advantage, so she has trouble using non-swords. And she's named Lapis, which is a blue gem, but she wears red. Okay. It's a blonde mage whose name starts with C. It's Citrinne. Magic is everything. She's got a lot of magic, and literally nothing else. I think Citrinne's viability depends entirely on one question. How lucky are you? If you have the Dire Thunder Olwyn Bond Ring, I'd probably put her at like top of B. I think the Dire Thunder is so difficult to get, even with RNG cheesing, that no. She's a level 10 mage, so she can promote right away. Bad starting SP, same as all of the Brodia units. The Brodia units really suffer from that. It's very hard to get them Kanto without the well. Made of absolute paper, but that applies to most of your units. It just definitely applies to Celine. Not Celine. But she will also get doubled by absolutely everything, because she has both bad build and bad speed. So she gets weighed down by everything. 15 base magic. That's incredible. 65 magic growth. That's incredible. 30 speed growth with a 10 base. Uh-oh. I should probably explain what the Dire Thunder Ring does. So Thunder is a 1/3 range tome that can never double. However, if you get the Bond Ring from Olwyn, who is one of Lief's Bond Rings, it's pure RNG if you can do it. There is a way to manipulate it, but it still takes a lot of time. You get the Dire Thunder effect, and that means that you double with Thunder. And it ignores speed stats, you will just always double with Thunder. So literally doubling her damage output, which is already high to begin with, makes her much more useful than she would be without it. Which is why she in particular depends so much on it. Now Dire Thunder does have a problem of falling off because it only applies to base Thunder. It does not apply to El Thunder or Thoron. If it did, then she would be way better. But there is a limit to how much you can forge up Thunder. Eventually, she gets outclassed by mages that can just double naturally using better tomes. Her personal skill, Generosity, when she uses an item to heal, it will also heal others near her. You can never use this because she's either alive or dead, so useless skill, unfortunately. It has been a while, so I guess I'm getting attacked. Tons of people saying that you can do Mage Knight Citrinne with a zillion speed buffs to get her to reliably double, and that she can eventually hit the same benchmarks as Ivy. And I think everyone agrees Ivy's very good. But Ivy's like much better for reasons that Citrinne can never replicate, as in flying and staves. So we can move her up a little bit. We'll put her up in B, just because she has crazy magic. And speed is one of the easiest stats to fix, at least. You can just stuff her with a bunch of Lin stuff. And she can also Dire Thunder. I don't think I've defeated all the enemies. Some people really like Citrinne, some people really don't like her. So Citrinne so far has had the most contentious placement. Maybe I just don't know enough. Maybe she is better. But we will end with fun trivia. Apparently, Sniper Citrinne can kill every boss in the game with Radiant Bow Astra Storm. If I got killed by Citrinne Radiant Bow Astra Storm, I'd be really sad. Oh, it's my turn again. And yet I have a feeling that it won't be my turn for long. Diamant! I think he's lost? He looks like a Fire Emblem character. He's really out of place on this list. I know he looks like he should be in a boy band, but like he is the only one that to me really looks like a Fire Emblem character. He's still wearing armor, but it's like exaggerated fantasy armor. I really like his design, probably my favorite in the game, even if it is a bit like boring. Oh, we have to mention that in the Somniel, this guy's got the drip. Like he actually has the Air Jordans. I couldn't believe it. How good is Diamant? I don't think he's good at all. Diamant's personal stats are horrendous. It's very strange. Like, Lapis is better than him at pretty much everything, except that he's in a better class. And when he promotes to his personal promoted class, he's really good for like a little bit, just because that class has such good base stats, and then he will never hit anything ever, once his dex cap catches up with him. So he starts as a level 11 Lord. For some reason he has 800 SP instead of 500? What is this favoritism? 13 base strength? That's not that much better than Lapis, hello? 13 dex? It's good for now. 13 speed? Okay-ish for now. He actually does have really good build. So that's 1 point in his favor. 9 build is nice. 50% strength, 30% dex. Oh no. 50% speed. So I'd say barely good enough strength and speed. Definitely not good enough dex. His personal class, successor, so successor, but misspelled, or maybe it's a different language, but according to me, English is the only language. That personal class has really good stats. Unfortunately, although we are no longer playing Pokemon, we cannot escape Dexit. A 23 dex cap is absolutely pathetic. By the end of the game, he has serious hit issues. It's fixed a little bit by his personal skill, Fair Fight. So if he initiates a fight where the opponent can counterattack, they both get plus 15 hit, which is a lot. Ironically, despite the fact that it's called Fair Fight, it's best used when it is not a fair fight. So you want to use it when you break the opponent so that they don't actually counterattack you, or if you just kill them so that they never counterattack you. And it's not a disaster if the enemy does get to hit you back, because you probably weren't dodging anyway. It is possible to fix his hit issues with a hit engrave, but that means you're not using an engrave that boosts other things like crit or might, so it's just a weakness that you have to consider. It can be fixed, but it's a weakness that other units don't have. His personal class does have access to Soul, so Soul is a dex % chance to heal for half the damage you deal. Because he has such terrible dex, that also makes his activation chance of Soul low, and also Soul is just not that good to begin with. It sounds really nice to be able to leap into battle and then heal yourself up as you fight through hordes of enemies. On Maddening, that is not gonna happen. On Maddening, you're just gonna die. If Soul is saving you, then your strategy is probably super unreliable and you should be doing something else. There's better strats out there. I think the last thing we'll say about Diamant, there probably won't be an enemy phase. He's not very good on enemy phase anyway. Big upside over Lapis is SP advantage, and good starting class saves you 2,500 gold from having to reclass. I do think that's worth 1 position higher. He's a very decent mid-game unit, but I would say he falls off. Ironically, despite being a successor, not much success to be found. Amber, it's a blonde guy on a horse? There's a couple of those in this game. I guess blonde hair is the new blue hair. Everybody has blonde hair. So I think Amber is a girl's name. If you know any guys named Amber IRL, let me know in the comments. His personality is straight out of like 2007 Tumblr? LOL, alpacas, so random. For some reason, and I think this is true, he has the absolute best strength in the entire game. I wouldn't expect it out of this dude. I guess he wrestles the alpacas himself. If you have a bunch of strength, but mediocre speed, which he does, you can patch up his speed and then he'll kill everything. I mean, that's pretty good. Apparently second best strength. It's worse than Panette's. I don't like him, but you can make him do some work. Lance Cavalier, 800 SP, so he is able to get Canter. He's almost there. 15 strength, that's nice. 11 speed, that's not nice. 8 build, pretty good. 55 strength growth, in Cavalier, by the way. Suspicious speed, 15 res, although res is probably the least important stat in the entire game. Aspiring Hero is his personal skill. It gives you plus 20 hit rate, and minus 10 avoid, does come with a penalty, if there are no units adjacent to either the user or the foe, so if you're both isolated and like dueling. But he is a unit with a very clear weakness, but also a very clear path to success. He has a ton of strength, he has lacking speed, you can fix his speed. Now he does start as a Cavalier in Fire Emblem Engage, but he definitely excels in Fire Emblem warriors. So I would say, give him a second seal, take his shirt off, give him an axe and a bow. He's gonna be really good. Alternatively, if you want to be a little spicier, you could make him a halberdier. We haven't talked about halberdier at all yet, but halberdier is a really fun class. And the best part of halberdier, it's so good I made a graphic for it. What are you? An idiot sandwich! Pincer attack! Pincer attack, baby! Pincer attack is one of the best class skills in the game if you have the enemy pinched. So one of your units on the adjacent side of the enemy, you will always double no matter how low your speed is. Very nice. Lets you quadruple with brave weapons easily. Jade! This should be pretty easy. Yeah, she's worse than Anna. 5 speed. I don't really know what else we have to say. 5 speed. She's bad Louis pretty much immediately at the point where Louis starts to lose his usefulness. I don't know what you would do with Jade. Personal skill, meditation. If you wait, you gain +2 res. You have 6 base res. And you get doubled, so you die anyway, so this is nothing. At least if you train Anna, there is an eventual reward. And her personal skill is very unique utility. Ah, we're under attack. Good thing we have +2 res. Now we're safe, right? She does have decent enough base strength. You could probably engineer some sort of strange one-shot build with a zillion effort. She's from Brodia. She's visiting Firenne. We'll put her at the top of Firenne's finest. And I guess if you go Great Knight, she does have an axe boon, so she can use the silver great axe to try and hit one thing really hard. I'm guessing she's just gonna miss. Okay, we survived. It's player phase. But I've got terrible news. We've just lost all of our Emblem Rings, and we're on the run. I sure hope we get some good units to help us. Ivy, first member of the Elusia Savior Squad. I remember when I first recruited Ivy, I was like, wow, her stats are so good. And then people pointed out that she wasn't even promoted yet. I just assumed she was pre-promoted. Good unit? Best character in the game? Maybe. So in Engage, most characters are stat soup. They're kind of interchangeable with enough resources, but nobody will ever be what Ivy is, which is a flying mage with staves. If you know anything about Fire Emblem, that probably sounds pretty good to you. 1000 starting SP. I wish you joined us last chapter. That would be nice. She unfortunately cannot get Kanto. 17 base magic. Keep in mind, she's not promoted yet. 15 dex, which is pretty good, but also ironic considering that eventually he does have hit issues. Speed's a bit iffy, but you can fix speed in this game. Actually, very good build for a mage. She caps out at B rank stabs, but that is good enough for everything except for ensnare, and she's very good friends with someone that fixes that issue, since you really only need one ensnare user. One thing that I do think is actually noteworthy for Ivy is that 32 HP, 12 defense, 15 res? That's actually not that bad. She is one of your units that might actually survive a hit. She won't survive 2 though. And obviously bows just kill her. Growth rates, 50% magic, 40% speed. Actually a little bit low, but these do get better when she promotes. And her bases are like super good, right? This is what really matters. Single-minded, her personal skill is pretty good. It gives you a +20 hit bonus if you fight the same unit consecutively. That is not going to happen that often, but if you like dance her and then attack the same target, and by same target I mean a boss, right? Because she kills everyone else, then you'll get a nice hit bonus. She does have some hit issues near the end of the game though, because her dex cap is really bad, despite magic itself being quite accurate. Magic in this game is just super good. It is way better than physical for sure. And the mages we've talked about so far just haven't been very good. Ivy is the first just truly stellar mage you get, on top of the best mobility and insane staff utility. I think like the developers were afraid that by taking away all your emblem rings, they powered you down too much, so then they just gave you one of the best units in the game. She also does reach S tomes in her personal promoted class, which means she can use the Brave Nova tome. I think Bolganone is overall better, But there probably are some scenarios where using Nova is probably worth it. I guess we'll mention her personal class skill, Grasping Void. It's a dex % chance to add half your opponent's res to your damage. I hope I remembered that correctly. It's very strange. So most units you're going to be attacking don't have very good res. I mean, that's why you're attacking them, right? But I guess in cases where you're forced to attack enemy mages, there's a dex % chance that you'll do more damage to them. Oh, it's half their opponent's magic. Okay. So I imagined a much better version of her skill. Knowing the truth now that it's half of your enemy's magic, you can probably see why I'm not that excited about it. I mean, no enemy phase, right? She killed all the enemies. Well, we lost all our emblems, and Ivy's really good, but I'm not sure if she can carry the rest of the game. Good thing we get Kagetsu. Best unit in the game? Maybe. Best base stats in the entire game. 17 strength? 22 dex? 22 speed? 14 defense? 9 build? 17 what? These numbers are so high! And keep in mind, he's a Swordmaster, and Swordmaster is arguably the worst class in the entire game. I think it's a bit better than Berserker. What? So they just gave him absolutely crazy base stats, which is balanced by the fact that his growths are terrible, right? I mean, 40% strength, I mean, that's okay. 65 dex, that's really good. 70 speed, that's really good. What? He has more personal magic than Clanne. He's better at being a mage than Clanne. Leave it to intelligent systems to add one completely out of place Asian dude and make him ridiculously overpowered. He is the best physical unit in the entire game. His personal skill is also pretty good. And it has an exclamation point in Japanese. Why did they nerf the English version? So when Kagetsu initiates combat, he gains an extra 10 hit. I mean, it reduces enemy avoid by 10, but it's the same as gaining 10 hit. Super good. Especially in a class that doesn't use swords, as if they're telling you, you should reclass him. So fun fact, his name, Kagetsu, is Flower Moon, and then the Japanese title of 3 houses is Fukasetsugetsu, which includes Flower and Moon. As if Kagetsu's stats weren't good enough, I think he's also just really likable. Most people in this game are either like one note or just complete psychos. And I was a bit worried with Kagetsu because when you select him, he says like, bring me strong foes. So I thought he was gonna be like a Sasuke edgelord type. But no, he's just like a really likable dude. He just wants to make friends. He has some pretty normal conversations. I just really like him. He does have the most confusing localization change in the entire game. So he has a support with Ivy, where in Japanese he predicts that dinner will be fried chicken, but in English, it's vegetable stir fry. Why did they change it? So specifically in Japanese, he says that it's karaage, which I guess if you're being super pedantic is a very specific kind of chicken nugget. Now maybe they didn't want him to say chicken nugget because maybe that's like too modern, despite the fact that people wear like Air Jordans. So they could have made it, I guess, fried chicken. Maybe they think Westerners don't know what fried chicken is. I doubt that's the case. I mean, do you know where Kentucky is? So you could say that fried chicken is not faithful to what the Japanese actually is, but it'd be more faithful than vegetable stir fry. No nugs allowed, okay? But we will say, they did have the bravery to, in the ending credits, actually call him the Onigiri Samurai and not the Jelly Donut Samurai, so localization has improved. Fanfic. Now, I don't have any evidence for this, but I'm assuming reclassing was added late in development, because it sort of makes sense that Kagetsu has such insane stats, if you consider that Swordmaster is just a horrible class, so he's kind of kept in check by his class. But because you can reclass, he just gets out of control. All you have to do is make him friends with Ike, because then he gets Axe affinity, and then he can reclass to Wyvern Rider, and then it's over for the enemy, okay? He's gonna be slicing and dicing. Now, I don't have any evidence for reclassing being an afterthought, but it definitely was. Somebody in the chat said it, that somebody once called Kagetsu Stefan with reclassing. Sounds about right. Stefan is a Elyos character who has insane stats, but he's a swordmaster, and swordmasters suck, so he ends up being just really good. The main reason why Kagetsu is not better than Ivy is that magic is better than physical. Also, Ivy flies and has stabs. Ivy, with backup from Kagetsu, really patched up a lot of the strength we lost from our Emblem Rings, but I'm still worried we're a bit weak. Oh, good thing we get this guy. Put him below Amber. Great meta incorporation on Intelligent Systems' part regarding Zelkov. He's a thief, so he's very sneaky, and whenever you try to use this guy, you'll move all your units and then wonder why your turn didn't end. It's because you didn't move Zelkov. This guy's invisible. So the thief class, unfortunately, has very bad stats, so it is a testament to this dude's personal training that his stats are still crazy. I know we just looked at Kagetsu, so this guy looks like kind of a wimp, but 15 strength, 19 dex, 19 speed, doubles everything. Defense 14? What is his cloak made of? Solid steel? Res 5's kind of bad. Growth rates, 45% strength. Keep in mind, this is in Thief. Dex 50, speed 50, a little bit low, but I mean, his base is 19. If you didn't use Yunaka, and you're not a huge Yunaka fan, just use Zelkov. Like, this guy's personal stats are just so good. And he can use knives. Knives are crazy good, and they have not fallen off yet. If you have a forged knife from Yunaka, just give it to Zelkov. His personal skill is actually very good, especially on hard mode. So if units attack him, they lose 10 hit, which makes him the Giga Dodge tank. And on Maddening, this doesn't actually make him worse, because enemies don't see it. So they won't attack you if they have 0 hit, but if they had 10 hit, they don't see that they lose 10 hit and then reach 0. But Yunaka's personal, I would say, is a bit better. We'll mention it now because you can kind of see it in the Japanese for his personal skill. So the way his speech quirk works in Japanese is mostly the same, but it is a pun. So instead of asterisks, you use brackets. It's the same thing, you get the emphasis, but the phrase to put in brackets, kakkotsukeru, sounds the exact same as to try and act cool. So he gets that extra bit of fun in Japanese. Now, one of the best things about Zelkov is that despite the fact that he's a thief, he is gigantic. Build 9. So although he is a thief in Fire Emblem Engage, he really excels in Fire Emblem Warriors. The big thing is that you have to get him to level 21 so they can reclass out of Thief. But once you do that, you can give him an axe, give him a bow, take his shirt off, and he's really good. Like, I cannot believe how buff he is. He has like some of the best personal build in the game. I don't know why he's a thief, which is very weird because the thief does not need build at all. Alright, well, with Ivy, Kagetsu, and Zelkov on the squad, I'm feeling a lot better even without emblems. I don't think we need any more good units. And yet they don't stop coming. What in the world? I think maybe the developers were a little bit too worried. And they're getting a little bit too generous with these new recruits. Fogado. So his base stats are actually, I'm gonna say deceptively low because he is actually ready to promote here. 12 strength, not the best, although we'll be fixing that soon. 17 dex, excellent. 18 speed, excellent. Growth rates, 35 strength is kind of suspicious, but don't worry, we'll fix that. 25 magic, that's kinda high. Does he have any use for magic? Oh, we'll talk about that. 70 speed, wow, nice. Actually, 10% build growth is pretty good. His personal skill is hilariously bad. Look at the Japanese name of it, Con Artist. If you were expecting a personal skill, you've been conned. So it's the same activation as Ivy's personal. For Ivy, if she fights the same unit consecutively, she gets plus 20 hit. For Fogado, if he fights the same unit consecutively, the enemy gets minus 10 crit. What? Okay. And he's a bow unit, right? So he doesn't get countered anyway? He is a noble, which means he has a unique promoted class, the Cupido. Many people in chat have called it stupido, probably implying that it's not very good. It gets a unique class skill back at you. I used to watch Kirby right back at you on the Fox box Saturday mornings. This is probably the worst class skill in the entire game. When countering, unit may deal extra damage equal to half of damage taken. Trigger equals dex. On a bow unit. What? May! It's conditional! Now let's take another look at his stats. Kinda lackluster strength, very good speed, surprisingly good build, and he actually has a bow proficiency, which allows him to use higher rank bows if he's in a class that can use bows. And also his own personal class is pretty bad. Can you guess what I'm gonna say? So Fogado is a sentinel in the game Fire Emblem Engage, but I think he really excels in Fire Emblem Warriors. You can take his horse away, give him an axe, give him a bow, take his shirt off, and he's pretty good. He's actually playing Fire Emblem Warriors with DLC because he has some special utility that I think makes him better at war than other warriors. The bow proficiency means that he does get to use silver bow, which is nice. And remember that he has a strangely good magic growth, which means that he can actually whip out that radiant bow and terrorize wyverns. Wyverns hate him, okay? We had a good laugh, a good chuckle at Cupido, but it is still a 6-move class. It can use bows, shoot down some flyers. It's not the worst thing ever. I just think that it is worth actually playing Fire Emblem Warriors. In case you're tight on second seals, which you might be because this is where you want to reclass Kagetsu and Zelkov, who I think benefit more from the reclass. Ivy, Kagetsu, Zelkov, Fogado, half of them with no shirts. It is getting hot in here. Intelligent systems, please. No more good units. Wish granted. Bunet. He is a chef, but do not let him cook. Worst unit in the game. No questions asked. So Bunet joins as a level 1 Great Knight. 15 strength, that's okay. 15 dex. This is a single digit number. 9 speed! What? 20 defense is pretty good. But I guess it's 10 because you get doubled. Oh! Yeah, he's promoted, by the way. Growth rates. 45 strength. 35 speed. Oh. Oh. Horrible stats. Horrible growth. Horrible class. Just awful. Absolutely horrendous. There's a garbage truck outside. Literally, as I started talking about Bunet, a garbage truck pulled up outside. Please take him away. So I'm actually gonna leave the garbage truck noise in the background. Personal skill, seconds. I don't even want firsts with this dude. So there's a chance when cooking that you get a bento box, and then with Bunet, there is a luck % chance that you get to use the bento box twice. I guess it could proc again and you could use it 3 times. How much luck does he have? 13. That means 87% chance to do nothing! The bento box is just a 1-use, slightly stronger vulnerary. You have 41 base HP! The meme potential is that this does have synergy with Celica's favorite food skill to get an instant re-engage. I guess if you're trying to do goddess dance strats, because there is no way you're doing anything in combat with these stats. You don't even get Celica until chapter 19. So that's 7 chapters, you can't even do that. This guy is outclassed when he joins. In 7 chapters? Forget about it. Oh, apparently it was chapter 20, so he's even worse. We also need to point out that the Solm arc, where Bunet joins you, has 2 things about it. 1, it's really easy, because I think the game is worried that you're going to be lost without your Emblem Rings. And 2, you get only like 8 deploy slots. It's really only 7 because you have to deploy Alear. So Bunet is a filler unit when you least need filler units. Probably the only unit in the game that I would actually say is truly useless. At least if you train Anna, you do get a reward. There's no rewards for Bunet. And in a cast of unhinged psychopaths, Bunet takes the cake and eats it. This guy is off his rocker.
Good morning! Sorry to bother you, but might I have a taste of that pillar? Or even your bed? No, I'm not joking. Why do you ask? Lucina, the legendary sword you wield. I wonder, what does it taste like?
Falchion is not an ingredient in a recipe.
I guess it's a Pokemon crossover because he has Pika? Like the eating disorder where you have to eat everything? He's crazy. Somebody mentioned it in the chat. Great meta voice actor synergy. Same voice actor as Berkut, another psychotic character. But at least Berkut is fun, and that's not a lie. Lies! Lies! Now, after that travesty, we need a palate cleanser. I think it's time to throw a party. Pandreo, more like Pandreo. Pent, is that you? Insane bases. 16 magic, pretty good. 18 dex, pretty good. 17 speed. This guy's a mage, he's 17 speed. Look at this guy, Zelkov, the thief, you know, the really fast class that joined us like 2 chapters ago? 19 speed. Pandreo, 17 speed. Hello? He's so fast! Growth rates, 55% magic, 50% speed. And this is in High Priest, which is a terrible class, so you gotta get him out of this. Look at this starting inventory. I mean, we don't count starting inventory, but this is like one of the best starting inventories of all time. Elfire, comes with a warp, comes with a physique. Thanks. He has maybe one of the best personals in the entire game, Party Animal. So for every unit, friendly or enemy, that is within 2 tiles of him, he gains both +3 hit and 3 avoid. Now, unless you're using Thoron at 3 range, by yourself in a corner, this is always going to be at least +3/+3 because it includes the enemy that you're attacking. It is almost certainly going to be way more than that. I think on average, because you do kind of want to clump up in this game, you are getting at least +10/+10. Often more. Super good personal. Now, he's a High Priest. Apparently, at the Temple of Iron, this guy is gigantic. 8 build for a mage? Now, almost every other magic user in this game is like a toothpick. Like, oh no, this book is so heavy. Elfire. Not Pandreo, okay? He's got the gains. No speed loss, and good base speed. You know what that means? You attack twice. Now, High Priest is kind of a crap class, though, so you definitely want to be an apostate. Fists are not worth anything. And S-Stabs is not useful at all. You should probably reclass him to either Sage. You get to keep most of the staff utility. He also gets even bigger. He gets 9 build. And he does make a good Sage because he does have staff proficiency, which means he can actually get to A and use Ensnare, if you want to. Or you can go to Mage Knight for even more speed, but you lose staves. Now, unfortunately, he does not fit into the Warriors meta, but if you do want to take his shirt off, Sage is an option. We can try Howling. Let's start a party. Oh! I tried my best. I don't want to bother my neighbor too much. All right, Timerra. Where's Tia? I think she's kind of a polarizing unit. She actually uses poles. I'm not sure how controversial this will be, because she seems to be really popular online, and we are online right now. I hate Timerra. I think she's terrible. So let's look at her stats here. She is unpromoted, so these do get better when she promotes, which she can do right away. 14 strength, I mean, that's okay. 17 dex, that's okay. 18 speed, hey, that's actually pretty good. Build 5. Oh boy. Oh my god, build 5. Ah! On her initial joining chapter, she is useless. You can promote her in the next chapter, but in this one, it's Fog of War. There's a zillion wyverns that are coming to kill her, and she has 4 movement. She is such a liability. She gets doubled and killed by everything, even with Ike. She makes Ike look bad. That's incredible. With the Silver Lance, she has 10 speed. Horrible. She has a very strange stat build. She's supposed to be like a kind of fast defensive lance infantry. Like, she has good defense, but her build is so bad that she can't use anything worthwhile without absolutely killing her speed stat. 35% strength, horrible. 50% speed is, like, okay. Her personal skill, Racket of Solm, is actually kind of useful. No shade for that. It's definitely better than her brother's. So Racket of Solm, just in a 2-tile radius around her, reduces enemy crit rate by 5. You're never gonna know if this actually saved you from a crit, but at some point it probably will, because a lot of enemies have, like, tiny amounts of crit. I was wrong. It's actually a 3-tile range. Wow, what a racket. And by racket, I mean the scam. It's a little bit unfair because this is a smash weapon, but the Ike Hammer has 15 weight, so she loses 9 speed if she equips it. She drops to single-digit speed. You know who else has single-digit speed? Bunet. The reason why I think a lot of people like Timerra is because, similar to Alcryst, she is a fun unit. When you promote her up into Picket, strange name, for her unique promoted class, she gets Sandstorm. And Sandstorm is a dex % chance to calculate damage using 1.5% your defense instead of your strength. It's body press. When you gamble with Alcryst on Luna and crits and you lose, what happens? The enemy doesn't die, is what happens. When you gamble with Timerra and Sandstorm and it doesn't proc, what happens? You die. Because you're attacking them up close. She might actually be among the finest. She's so horrible. And again, I'm not holding it against them, but her design is just, I can't stand it. I thought for sure she was the dancer, because she appears in the opening cinematic, dancing, and she looks like one, and it fits her personality. But she's not a dancer. Put Bunet above her? Let's be reasonable, okay? No. What I will say in very meek defense of Timerra is that good speed and bad build is better than bad speed and good build. It's still bad though. So Timerra is awful, and she's the leader of her own squad. And if she's the leader, she's gotta be the best, right? So her first retainer is Panette. Now this is a character that I really did not like at first glance. She's very bad on her joining chapter because she's locked into Berserker, which is, I think, the worst class in the game. She gets doubled and killed by everything. I was appalled at how weak she was for a pre-promoted unit. S tier. Are you looking down on me? Panette is the perfect template for the crit kill build. She is the absolute best in the game at doing it, and it is definitely worth doing. We don't actually want to heal Panette, right? So we can see if Panette actually takes... Wow. So this is not even counting the crit, which is totally fine. We have 100% crit. So this guaranteed kills him. I know he has a revival gem, but this seems like a good strategy. 69. Pretty good. And we can get out of Hyper Beam as well. So we want to kill this first. I didn't even have to look at the crit percentage. I know it's 100. See ya. Play with me. Good unit? Alright, this does use our Seedle action, but I think it's worth it. Now we don't have to worry about the Thief anymore. Something I can say about the Thieves, but I won't say because it spoils the fun. Uh-oh. So what does this Thief have? Does he have, like, self-destruct or something? His pass. I mean, he's about to pass into the afterlife. Is that what you meant? You looking down on me? Our engage meter's back. I love Kanto. So let's look at her stats. This number is 25. Whoa! 19 dex, that's actually kind of a lot. This is bad. And 11 build isn't bad, but not good enough to use the Silver Axe, which is what she starts with. What are her growths? 75% strength growth! With a 25 base! I can't believe it! 35% speed is bad, but Panette is one of the only units that doesn't actually need to double to kill. A double attack does double damage, but a crit does 3 times. In a game where most personal skills do nothing, check out this one, Blood Fury. If you're damaged, as in if you're missing a single HP, you gain 10% crit. It's not Persecution complex, but 10% crit is massive. That is the same as gaining 10 dex worth of crit, just for being damaged. It's also important to note that her HP stat is really, really good. That is important because Ike's Wrath cares about your missing HP points. In order to get maximum Wrath crit, you have to be missing 30 HP. Panette has so much HP that even at max Wrath, she still has more HP than full health Hortensia. So even when she is ready to kill in one shot with a 100% crit, she still doesn't die if you mess up and get hit by the enemy. It's just a really nice safety net. I was wrong, so she actually gets 20 dex worth of crit just from her passive. So there is a pretty clear strategy with Panette. You give her a killer axe, you give her a crit engraving, you give her Ike. Ike is really important for 2 things. One, it gives her access to Wrath, which increases her crit by up to 30, and perhaps more importantly, it lets her get hit very reliably, because it drops your avoid to 0, and also makes sure that the incoming hits don't actually kill you. And once you're ready to go, you get 100% crit. And at 100% crit, it's not a gimmick, it's a strategy. Turn their intestines into outtestines. At that point, you don't have to worry about dying because dead enemies don't fight back. Good unit. And she is actually capable of enemy phasing. So if you inherit Vantage from Lief, the best part of Lief, and you're careful with her positioning, you can Vantage and crit kill enemies before they even attack you. You do have to be careful though, because enemy 2 range or 3 range obviously can't be countered by your killer axe. If you want to try and pretend that Lief isn't the worst thing ever, maybe you can make your dreams a reality by using Lief on Panette, because she is by far the best user of Lief. You just have to change the build a bit. So you would inherit Wrath from Ike, and then go up to bond level 9 with Lief. In that case, if you have a forged killer axe and killer bow, then, because you do not have access to the Master Lance or the Light Brand, Lief's adaptability will only swap you between your killer axe or your killer bow. So that lets you 1-2 range on enemy phase. But you are locked to only Vantage 1, so you have to be below 25% health, which can be kind of tricky to get to. But hey, you get plus 20 crit from being a backup unit with Lief. It's a legit strat. I just think the Ike one's a bit better, and it's definitely easier to use. The Ike strategy is foolproof, whereas with the Lief strategy, maybe it's for fools only. Now, although she is serviceable in Berserker, there is a way you can change her so that it gets her speed a little bit better, to the point where she doesn't get doubled, which is nice. And you can also give her access to bows, which are really useful, since you can then shoot down wyverns if your crits aren't active, or to just back up with bows. So, although she is a Berserker in Fire Emblem Engage, and she has a cool dress, I think she really excels playing Fire Emblem Warriors. Give her a bow, swap out her dress for one that shows a midriff, and she'll do really well. What's the opposite of sibling rivalry? Sibling camaraderie? These guys are friends, they're both really good. My sister was in the chat earlier. I wonder what tier we'd be in. We're both really small. Bad build stats. They also have really cute supports. I really like their supports together. I like Panette's supports a lot more than I thought I would, considering her initial appearance. Her Japanese is also very funny, because her Japanese is like polite, but wrong and also too polite. I think it works a little bit better than it does in English, although her English is also fine. Man, we've got a really high encounter rate with good units. Oh, and here's another rare critter. It's Merrin. Do you like good units? We found one. It's her dream to create a Pokedex, actually, in like one of her supports. Well, not a Pokedex, but a log of rare critters. She can consider herself one of the entries. Do you like good stats? Well, here you go. 15 strength is a little bit low, but keep in mind this is in a class that has low strength and can use knives, and knives have crazy might when you forge them. 21 dex, excellent. 21 speed, excellent. Why is she so big? The wolf is gonna get tired carrying you. Why does she have 9 build? Not that she needs it, because knives are tiny. Actually kind of respectable defenses. Although I think on her joint chapter she does get one-shot by the smash axe wyverns. 30% strength is a bit disappointing, but you're not gonna be a wolf knight for long, don't worry. 70% speed, let's go! Her personal skill, Knightly Escorts, does require some setup, but it is decent. So if you have 2 female units within 2 spaces, you all get +5 hit and +5 avoid. So one of the reasons why female Alear is slightly better. In a lot of ways, she's similar to Zelkov, with one major advantage. Zelkov has the disadvantage of having to get to level 21 in Thief to actually reclass. Now, Merrin has incredibly good base stats, but kind of lackluster strength. You guess what I'm gonna say? She's a Wolf Knight in Fire Emblem Engage, but I think she really excels in Fire Emblem Warriors. You can give her an axe, you can give her a bow, you can give her a midriff. She does pretty well. She's perfectly serviceable as a Wolf Knight, by the way, if you need a knife user, and she can even use the Levin Sword with surprisingly good magic. But if you just need another physical bruiser, you got a couple other options, but you could go Warrior Merrin and just kill everything. Oh! The units have been so good that there really hasn't been an enemy phase. We're gonna have a mini one here. So Merrin, people are saying that they basically are Kagetsu, which I guess I could see as true, because she only comes 2 chapters later, 2 very easy chapters later, and she starts in a better class than Swordmaster, and then they both have the exact same potential to reclass to Warrior, because Ike joins in this chapter, and they both need the axe proficiency. But Merrin is actually better if you don't reclass her, just because Swordmaster is so terrible. But you could also say that she's just Zelkov plus. So you could also move her down. Ultimately, I don't really think I'm gonna move her anywhere. I think middle of S is fine. She's very good. Whoa, player phase begins with a unit that I think has no enemy phase. She really can't fight at all. The only thing she can do is use staves. How good is that? Especially since we've had these other 2 staff users for the entire game. And this guy who can also use staves. Do we really need another one? Yes. Best staff user in the entire game? In a game where staves are super useful. She's sisters with Ivy, so fitting that we mention this again. One of the things that makes units actually unique in Engage is having special classes. She has a special class. She's actually not even promoted yet, wow. So good news and bad news regarding Hortensia's durability. Good news, she is fast enough that she will probably avoid being doubled. Bad news, she dies in 1 hit. Her HP is so bad, I think you should actually give her a Seraph Robe, because without the Seraph Robe, she actually just dies in 1 hit. Oh no, only build 5 though. I guess we can look at her growth rates. 35% magic, pretty lackluster, so although she can use tomes, she is really not that good at attacking. She can maybe tickle wyverns with wind tomes, but I wouldn't recommend it. 60% speed, fast enough to avoid being doubled, might even double some enemies. 80% resistance, so apparently one of the stabs she can use is the Black King bar, because she is immune to magic. She's 23 base res. You can just ignore enemy magic. Big Personality is one of the best personals in the entire game. I don't know how they got Big Personality out of Shining Power of Reason. Localization fanfic. What Big Personality does is extend your staff range by 1. That doesn't sound that amazing, but there are so many instances where that 1 extra staff rank keeps you safe, or just lets you do a play that you wouldn't be able to do if you had to actually rub your staff on someone. Her durability is very bad, but she is a flyer who is mostly doing support things near friendly units. If you can't keep her alive, I think you're making some mistakes. She's like the easiest unit to keep alive in the entire game, especially once you get Kanto. So she has a unique class promotion, Sleipnir Rider, which has a class skill called World Tree. It's a dex % chance, she has very good dex, to get free healthcare. Your staff does not consume a charge when used. I think it's incredibly overrated. I don't think it matters at all when you get free staff uses, but it is very hype when it happens. And as an American, I'm very sad when I see somebody else get something for free. Why didn't you pay for it? Freeloader! One unfortunate thing about Sleipnir Rider is capping out at B tomes is very sad. Bolganone is very good, but Bolganone is A. And you can't use Bolganone in her personal class. No, but you don't actually have to fight with her. You could argue that pure staff utility is not worth S. You have Obstruct to very cheaply manipulate enemy movement. You have Fracture, which can actually break enemy corrupted wyverns, which then lets your other units poison it, do whatever you want to them without risking a very, very dangerous counterattack. Of course, you can heal things. And then you can rewarp, you can warp, and you can ensnare, and you can boost all of these things with Micaiah, the best emblem in the game. I don't know, I think that's S. But I might also be personally biased. In the Fell Xenologue finale, I did it on Maddening. There's a VOD you can see. I think it literally took me 8 hours, and almost every single turn was, wow, we're in huge trouble. Is there a staff that can save us? And almost always, yes, there was a staff that could save us. I love staves. Cedal, he's a dancer. Best unit in the game? Maybe. He's got stats. They could literally all be 1, and I don't think his rating would change at all. I'm not even kidding. The fact that he does have enough speed to maybe not get doubled is just a bonus. His class Dancer is a key adept, which means that he can equip arts, which actually does matter because you can just equip shielding art. Gives you +5 defense, so although it says he has 10 defense, he really has 15 because I don't know why you would ever use anything else. I saw a tier list where they penalized Cedal because he was bad at fighting. I couldn't believe it. But I guess they're not wrong. Yeah, he's bad at fighting. Oh no, 35% strength. Wow, 75% speed. He's so fast. Yeah, he's not gonna get doubled. That's nice. So just to explain for people who might not know, a Dancer is a special class that allows another unit to act again. Now you could say that a Dancer is a clone of your best unit, but it is actually far, far better than that. So let me ask you a follow-up question. Who's your best unit? That's a question you can't really answer, because your best unit changes from turn to turn, and even within a turn. Your best unit is whatever unit accomplishes the objective you want done, and Cedal supports that unit whoever they might be. As a key adept, he actually has the ability to chain guard, which is nice, but I think out of the probably hundreds of turns that I actually used Cedal for, there is not a single turn where he didn't dance. With the exception of one turn where I was memeing with like a Sigurd override through like 5 Mage Knights. His personal skill, Curious Dance, is not the Dancer class skill, but he will naturally heal allies near him at the start of each turn. You can pretty much ignore this, but it is something. The actual Dancer class skill, Special Dance, is super nice. When you dance for someone, you give them, I believe, +3 speed, +3 dex, and +3 luck. So it makes their second action actually better than their first action. Wow. Tons of mechanics in Engage just play perfectly in favor of Cedal. There's the fact that you rely on power turns with engaged units, so getting those powerful units more use out of their engage by dancing them is super useful. This is a game that does feature Kanto. Cedal can get it, and a Dancer with Kanto, excellent, because you can dance, and then you can go to safety, or you can dance or you can move ahead. You can dance, then you can move to get Goddess danced and dance again. It's a dance revolution. Incredible. Probably one of the best dancers in the entire series, which is really something. I think the only other dancers who can possibly challenge him are the Herons from Elyos, or the FE4 dancers that always have a 4-person dance. One of the best things about Cedal, which does not apply to any other units in the game, is that everything amazing we've said about Citrinne is actually about Citrinne. He doesn't need any jewelry. He is one of the only units in the game, arguably the only one, that functions at like 95% effectiveness without a ring. And if you didn't pay $30 US, you don't have enough rings for everyone. In the final chapter, there's 14 deploys, but you only have 12 rings. So the fact that Citrinne does not need a ring is actually very, very useful. That part is a little bit less useful if you did pay $30 and have the extra DLC rings, but even then, like, a ring doesn't really do anything for him. The best one is Sigurd because it lets him move one extra range, and I guess he can then engage and then catch up to someone to then dance for them. Citrinne does not need rings. Man, if this is how good Citrinne is, imagine how strong he'd be if he evolved into King Droll, right? Rosado. Wyvern Rider is one of the best classes in the history of Fire Emblem, and Rosado is a Wyvern Rider. Horrible. So let's look at Rosado's stats. He's a level 3 Wyvern Knight, so he's promoted. 16 strength. Chapter 16? It's a little low. Good enough dex. Hey, he's really fast. 21. 15 defense. Build 8? Build 8 with axes? Build 8 with axes? So this isn't actually 21. Ah! His growths are okay. 65 strength growth is good. 50 speed. 10 build growth. It is very worrying that he has these stats in the best class in the game, so it doesn't actually get better than this. Oh no. He starts his joint chapter engaged with Erica, and this is supposed to show you that corrupted worms have crazy defense and that you need to use Erica to get past that. So then the game encourages you to see firsthand just how bad Rosado is, as he fails to do anything to them. Quite a feat to make both Wyvern Knight and Erica look bad. His personal skill is actually pretty good. Stunning Smile lowers the enemy's avoid if the enemy is a male, and I believe most enemies in the game are actually male. It actually works on Corrupted, which is kind of funny. They can't resist his smile. I think I said it with Kagetsu, but it really does feel like reclassing was an afterthought. Rosado is maybe the only unit in the game who is hurt by reclassing. Because it can't help him, he's already in the best class. But it helps everyone else be better than him. Because if he actually was the only Wyvern Rider you got, I would say he would definitely be worth using. I'd probably move him up to A, because yeah, I would maybe invest into him, and then yeah, you get a flyer. His stats are so bad. Pretty much anyone up here that's physically inclined is going to be a better Wyvern Rider than him. It's super duper obvious because he literally joins with Goldmary. You can reclass Goldmary immediately into a Wyvern Knight, and she'll just have better stats than him in like everything. Very sad. I think the fact that he does start in such a good class keeps him above the finest, but yikes. Also, do keep in mind, this is around the point of the game where units are going to start losing credit for availability, because the game is nearing the end. So past this point, you are going to see units that I think are good, but they're just not in the game. So his ranking here is actually deflated by his poor availability. Cheese, would you ever do an Emblem Engage drip tier list? Drip for like their classes or like the Somnial? I think the best Somnial drip for guys is probably Diamant, because he's got the Jordans. And I think the best female drip I would probably give to Nell. Goldmary. She's here to offer assistance. Twice, apparently. She's very brave. I like Goldmary a lot. I say as I put her at the very bottom of B. So Goldmary joins as a level 3 hero? That's very important because in 2 levels, she becomes brave. 17 strength, kinda low. 20 speed, probably not enough to double, but good enough to avoid being doubled. 18 dex is nice. For some reason, despite the fact that she specializes in not wearing clothes, I think she has the best defense in the entire game. 20 base defense. The 55 defense growth. In hero. What? 45 strength, 40 speed, both pretty underwhelming. Not disastrous, just not great. But you're not really going to be fighting with Goldmary. Personal skill, Disarming Sigh lowers enemies' hit rate if they are a male. Pretty useful, some nice extra avoid. So despite the fact that Gold Mary really wants to be in the spotlight, the main thing you're going to be doing with Gold Mary is Brave Assist botting, so not actually fighting. She's a level 3 hero, means that in 2 levels, she learns the Brave Assist skill. What Brave Assist does is if you are at full health, it lets you chain attack twice! And you'll also notice that she has 1800 SP. With 2000 SP, you can get Dual Assist Plus from Lucina, which allows her to run around to the extent of her movement range, and assist twice. So you basically set up Stealth Rock if Gold Mary is in the area. She shaves off 20% health off of every enemy for very little work. Just a couple fights to get her the resources she needs for that. That's very useful. And it's not like she can't ever attack. Like, these stats are okay, they're just not good enough to be a pure combat unit. You also don't really have to worry about her because she's so bulky. I guess Hero has a shield, right? One thing you could do with Gold Mary, I don't think it's particularly good, but if you do want to make someone a Great Knight and do like armored super defensive stuff, Gold Mary's actually very good at that, and you don't have to do any work, just second seal her. She also has hilarious bond conversations with both Ike and Soren, who are just not impressed at all. And the most damage that Lief ever deals is in a devastating bond conversation with Gold Mary. Don't say that Lief has bad attack, okay? She took so much damage.
You know, Lief, I wouldn't blame you if you began to develop feelings for me.
I already have feelings about you, Gold Mary. I think you and I will make good friends.
Now, Hero is one of my favorite classes. Not really a hot take, I think people really like heroes. Heroes in modern Fire Emblem games have been really bad. Hero in Three Houses is atrocious. Hero is the title of the Scam Gacha game. And the hero outfit on most characters in this game is just hideous. You get like a toilet bowl. But because Gold Mary's base class is hero, she does have the best hero drip. I like her base outfit. But hero in this game does have very bad stats. So don't be a hero if you intend to actually fight. Linden. He's old. He's had a lot of time to learn tricks. Is age power? It's more than you might think. I think Linden is very surprisingly good. He joins you as a level 5 sage. Magic is good. Very frail. I mean, as you would expect of just an old dude in a robe, so if he gets hit, he's going to die. 19 magic, that's pretty good. 21 dex, 19 speed? Like, this guy's kind of fast, right? You would think he would be very slow. What is he hiding under those robes? Build 10? Dude, he's bigger than Pandreo. Look at these growth rates. 55 magic, that's pretty good. 40 speed, that's pretty bad. 70 resistance, who cares? He starts with Thoron in his inventory. Thoron is very high might, like this is big damage. Once though, cannot double. If you were surprised by Linden's placement, well, this is why. Weapon Insight. This is the best part of Linden. If your enemy has a weapon that is a higher rank than yours, you gain crit. How much crit? So Panette's passive gains her 10 crit. That's one of the best passives in the game. Linden's passive gives him 20 crit. Get ready for Crit Grandpa. He's here.
Target sighted. Attack. Yeah! Very intriguing results.
So similar to the Erica ring, this is actually better on Maddening, because on Maddening, enemies have better weapons. Thoron is a high rank weapon, so you actually don't want to use it. You want to use a lower rank weapon like Vander, which hey, you can attack twice with using the Olwen ring, Dire Thunder. And when you attack twice with a bonus 20% crit, that's huge. I don't know if I would actually say this is a viable strategy. It's a high enough bonus that it's not like a joke. This is something you can do, and it is going to work a good amount of the time. So Linden is definitely hurt by his poor availability. This is getting pretty late in the game. But hey, he's completely free. You don't have to train him at all. He has pretty decent stats. You could zap some people But I will say, I think we were robbed. Because most Sage outfits have the midriff, but this dude's covered up, despite the fact that he is clearly insanely jacked. Release the old man midriff, okay? It's not fair. Now, this is not a gameplay recommendation, but although Linden is a Sage in Fire Emblem Engage, you could say that he is playable in Fire Emblem Warriors. Give him an axe, give him a bow, take his shirt off. He'll actually be okay. Like, he can use the Radiant Bow, and he still gets the crazy crit. Radiant Bow, by the way, I think has very low weapon rank, so you probably get the bonus crit on the Radiant Bow. You should probably just stick to Thunder strats, though. His supports are also very funny. He has a really sweet one with Hortensia that I like. Hortensia is, I think, one of the characters that can actually recruit him. Hey, imagine recruiting enemies in this game. Remember that from Fire Emblem games? But most of his supports are him being this, like, mad scientist, zapping people to see what happens. Sappher, a veteran warrior of Brodia. Apparently she's 35 years old? She looks dead. Is this a ghost-type trainer? Unfortunately for Sapphire, I think she's just a bit too late to the party. Better than Rosado? Level 8 warrior. Hey, warrior's a good class. 25 strength? Hey, that's not bad. 19 speed? A bit iffy? Because this is the very end of the game. Hey, 16 build is really good. 24 dex. Okay, these stats are actually kind of good. Growth rate, 55 strength, not bad. 45 speed, 19 speed is just not enough, but you can patch up speed. Comes with the Tomahawk, comes with the Brave Axe. Check out this personal skill, Will to Win. 20% hit rate and 20 avoid if you're at less than half HP. Warrior is one of the classes that might actually survive a hit. Not bad. And she starts with 2000 SP. I don't know, I mean, maybe she was kind of good to me. Just like a really, really solid filler unit. Ah, she's a veteran. I just wish she was in the game. They can have a girls' night out. Look at this. Now, although she is a warrior in Fire Emblem Engage, I think she really excels in Fire Emblem Wait a minute. Imagine getting a unit that actually is a warrior. Hey, less work you have to do. Anything else to say about Sapphire? Where's Ruby? Mauvier. No matter how many times you stab this guy, he can't afford to fall here, okay? He's very wealthy. He must retreat. I think Mauvier makes a horrible first impression, and second impression, and third impression. I think you deplete his health bar like 12 times before he actually joins you. I am so sick of seeing this guy. He's really good, though. So this class that he starts in, Royal Knight, is just worse than Griffin Knight. You should pretty much reclass him to Griffin Knight as soon as you can. 2500 starting SP is really nice. Filthy mixed attacker. But if you look at his growth rates, they're actually like not that bad. Better than you would think. 45 strength, 55 dex, 50 speed. Royal Knight is just really bad. I think it's a conspiracy to make Mauvier look bad by giving him the Flame Lance. The Flame Lance is horrendous. You would think that it would at least be better than the Levin Sword, like in terms of might, even if all the other stats were worse. No. The Levin Sword is better in literally every way, so you should make him a Sword Griffin Knight. Personal skill, Contemplative. If you wait, you get +2 defense. If you wait on a character that can use staff, so he's probably doing something, also 2 defense, chapter 21. It's not really doing anything. The class skill of Royal Knight, Reforge, about as good as Warcraft 3 Reforged, okay? Horrible. If an adjacent ally gets broken, then you pay 10 HP and then restore the break status on your ally. If this made adjacent units immune to break, this would still be bad. Why in the world is your plan to have an adjacent unit suffer a break, but don't worry, you've positioned Mauvier next to them so that he can pay HP to still lose the counterattack on that break. So it only matters if your ally gets attacked twice, and they somehow got broken but then like didn't die? What is going on? Why are you using this? All you have to do to get a lot of mileage out of Mauvier is ignore the things the game has done to make him seem really bad. You just gotta pry off all that armor. I think he loses most of it when he's in Griffin Knight. He doesn't even have to be a Griffin Knight. Like, his personal bases are just really good. I mean, if you wanted, although he does start as a Royal Knight in Fire Emblem Engage, you could play Fire Emblem Warriors. Give him an axe, give him a bow, take his shirt off. It's pretty good. We'll also say that he's an artist. He's maybe the only character in the entire game that actually has good enough mixed offenses to not do 0 damage with arts. You can do 2 damage with arts, but you can do it 4 times. Hey, that's 8 damage. Before we talk about Vale, who's the final unit who joins you in the main game, I think we are going to talk about the $30 tier just a little bit. So these are all the units that join you from the Fell Xenologue DLC. We're not going to go too much in depth on all of them. I'm probably not even going to show you their stats. I'm just going to talk about them sort of in general. It's really hard to rank these because, first of all, for many people, they just don't even exist, since you do have to pay so much to obtain them. Their power also varies wildly based on when you recruit them. I believe you can do the Fell Xenologue starting in Chapter 6, and then if you do it on normal mode, it's so easy that you can probably just auto-battle your way through. Now, these units, for whatever reason, do not scale to your current level in the main campaign. I believe that the dragons join you as level 20s in their personal classes, so the Fellchild, and then I believe these 3, Celestia, Gregory, and Madeline, all join you at level 1. Celestia has her personal class of, starts with an M, I think. Gregory's a Sage, and Madeline is a General. If you get them as soon as possible, they're all like S, because they're insanely overpowered for when you get them. But assuming you complete the Fell Xenologue around the Soulm arc, which is probably when you're supposed to do it based on the levels that they join you at, we'll talk very briefly about how they can be used. So Nell is a filthy mixed attacker. She basically just wastes some stats in magic to have worse physical stats than Nil. I think she's just worse than Nil. Nil is a pretty competent physical attacker with some very decent bulk. She just has really good stats. Both of them are dragons, by the way. So both of them can do all of the dragon utility things that Alear also can. Celestia, whose personal class does actually start with M, it's Melusine, is basically Ivy 0.9. She's very similar to Ivy. She has a better speed stat, but instead of staves, she gets swords, which is definitely worse. She also has a self-nerf skill in the form of Soul Blade. If you attack with your sword, you'll calculate against the average of the foe's defense and resistance. But if you're attacking with a sword, it's probably because the enemy has bad defense but good resistance. Soul Blade sucks. I wish you could turn it off. Gregory, he's basically Citrinne plus. He's just Citrinne with better stats and also no speed. That's it. Literally everything we said about Citrinne also applies to Gregory. Except I guess Gregory has a better personal. His personal escape plan, I think, gives him a very nice avoid bonus if there is more enemies near him than allies. I don't think he ever gets enough evade to actually be a dodge tank. It just might save you sometimes. He's just a magic nuke. Madeline. She's a general. That's not good. But hey, she's got a lot of strength. She has insane strength. And like 2 skill. It's not actually 2 skill, but she cannot hit anything. And her speed's bad. I do not like Maddie at all. If you do want to use Maddie, definitely reclass her, but she's probably beyond saving. Just like Marnie in the real story. Womp womp. Apparently Maddie at recruitment has the same stats as a 10-1 Jade with an energy drop. But hey, that energy drop does make her better than Jade. How good's Jade? She does have some interesting drip options though. If you really want to use her, I mean, she's a general in Fire Emblem Engage. You could put her in Fire Emblem Warriors. Take away her armor, give her a bow, and she keeps her bow that's actually on her head. Clearly she was meant to actually be a warrior. She dual wields bows. Incredible. The final recruitable unit in the game. It's Vale. She's a dragon. Although I guess you wouldn't know that because she never turns into a dragon in the entire story, but she says she is, and dragon slaying weapons do kill her, so I guess she was telling the truth. Being the very last unit in the game, she doesn't have that much time to shine, and she doesn't use shine because she uses dark magic. I really like Vale. Now, Vale herself actually has insanely good stats. Now, if you're looking at these, level 35, You might be thinking, okay, these stats aren't that good, right? Like, they're okay? The issue is that her personal class, Fellchild the Dragon one, has horrendous stats. If you reclass her into pretty much any other combat class, her stats go through the roof. Look at these growth rates. 35% strength, 70 magic, wow! 35 speed, She comes with 2 personal weapons. The Mere Scored, which is a magic dagger. I think it's the only magic dagger in the game. It does poison, which is nice. And then she has Obscurite. I think it is the only dark tome in the entire game. It doesn't actually do anything different than anima magic, but it looks cool. And importantly, it has high crit. I wonder if that'll be important. Her personal skill is the inverse of Alear's. It reduces damage taken by nearby allies by 3 and increases their damage by 1. Because we are at the very end of the game, this is much less useful than Alear's, but it's still not the worst thing ever. It is something. You're not exactly going to be tanking if you're adjacent to Vale, though. So Vale has a couple very powerful things she can do. She is a dragon, and she's the only dragon in the base game aside from Alear, which means that if you keep her in her base class, which has those terrible stats, those stats don't matter that much because you can take advantage of the very powerful dragon utility offered by emblems like Byleth or Corrin. She's great at that. If you just want a generally good combat unit, she has really good stats in every class that's not her own. You can make her a mage. She's very good magic. Magic is good in this game. She's a Fellchild in Fire Emblem Engage. You could play Fire Emblem Warriors. Give her an axe, give her a bow, give her a midriff. She's pretty good. She does have maybe the most obvious and extreme increase in power from paying $30. If you pay $30, I think she's high A or even S. Because if you pay $30, you can then utilize tactics with Soren to make her into pretty much the only invincible, unstoppable enemy phase character in the entire game. We explained that when we talked about Soren. Yeah, she's the only one who can do it, and it is super, super powerful. But it does cost $30. I think she does enough unique and powerful stuff that even though she's not really in the game, we'll put her at the bottom of A. It also makes the list a little prettier. Wow, this is like really fast tier list. I can't believe this actually took less time than the emblems. I guess there was a lot to talk about for each emblem. I'm under attack! One final enemy phase where I will just sort of condense a lot of the things people have been saying over the past few minutes of heated discussion regarding a couple units who maybe could move up or down. Somebody really, really likes Jean. I'm not sold. I certainly don't think Jean is any worse, but you could probably get him to do some decent physical stuff later. A lot of people really like Citrinne. I think Citrinne's placement took the most time overall. You could probably move Citrinne up. Apparently, you can get her to double things. And then, as for a unit that should be worse, people are saying that Bunet is so much worse that he should have his own tier. Why is Firenne's finest subjected to being near Bunet? We'll let him cook, okay? We'll give him his own tier. The people are clamoring. Bunet has so many fans. They'll help cool down the Hell's Kitchen he now finds himself in. Congratulations, Bunet. In the end, we let him cook. I think we kind of fulfilled the win conditions. We sort of failed a little bit. We failed with an asterisk. Oh no, we didn't. I thought that Bunet couldn't escape. Bunet could escape. It's fine. He can go to the kitchen. Alfred and Anna did not escape. Thank you to everybody who participated in this list. I guess I actually have a pretty good base speed stat because it only took us slightly less than 7 hours, which for me is very fast. I feel like we've spent a lot of time together. I feel a lot closer to all of you. Oh! It looks like our bond level increased. Uh-oh. Oh, it looks like our bond level increased. What do you think? Should we watch the level 20 bond conversation? We can get the final engage weapon. There's no Master Lance, don't worry. I really owe you one for helping me out with this tier list, Emblem Cheese. Is there anything I can do for you? そういえば、エリカちゃんも紋章師になっていると聞いてた。紹介してくれないか？ Banhammer. Mighty hammer once wielded by Tickaton. Smashes and silences foes. Effective against bots and zoomers. Kanto++. Can repeat jokes within a video. Slightly annoys viewers. Waifu Wars. Engage meter never decreases if synced to Lapis, Yunaka, Ivy, or Gold Mary.